We got a couple. Hey, Joe. Yes. Sure. Wait a minute.
If I will excuse myself. You can always suggest. But it doesn't look like there's going to be much happening. Take it later.
I thought there was a Knicks game on.
Here you go.
Is that your vision? Oh,
What? I have electrons. It's preseason. I haven't started preseason yet. So it's summer league. They haven't actually had a preseason starts tomorrow for the Knicks.
All right, what do you need, lady? I need my.
So it started to become the preseason. The Knicks start the 8th.
today. Oh, no, tomorrow.
Today's the 6th or 7th.
Today's the 7th.
So tomorrow, I think it's the first. So Jerry,
Wait for the. Oh, okay.
Throw it on my chair.
Okay, sure.
Good evening, everyone. Would you please join us in a salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mrs. Larrier?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal? Here. Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas it desires this governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 7th meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. Good to see people here. We haven't actually been in this room since May, because we meet in the summer up at the police station in the court because we don't have air conditioning here. So it was good timing this year because in our June meetings and our September meetings, they were really hot. And so, but it's nice to be back home. So thanks for coming out and being with us. We have 3 proclamations we're going to be doing this evening and also a presentation. Mr. Ryan will do the Mental Illness Awareness Week. Mr. Brownlee will do the Fire Prevention Week. And Mrs. Larrier will do the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Those are all 3 proclamations, and different people will be asked to come up during those readings. Then we'll have a presentation for the homeowners in Maplewood that have gone solar during Solarize Soma. And we have Deputy Mayor Leventhal and I will be coming out there. We have some nice little certificates for you. After that, we'll have our first public comment period. Anyone who would like to address the Township Committee will just come on up here and give us your name and address and share what you have on your mind. Then we will have our monthly Board of Health meeting. And we have the monthly Board of Health meeting, the first meeting of every month. And for those of you who might be here for trap, neuter, release of feral cats, we'll be discussing that during the Board of Health meeting. We'll be introducing a new ordinance. This is to prohibit repairs of motor vehicles within the public right-of-way. And then we have 5 discussion items. We'll be talking about the loading zone for the proposed new village post office, which will be at 195 Maplewood Avenue. We have a recommendation from the Economic Development Committee to rescind the demolition order for the former Maplewood Diner. 44th Street, we will be designating it as one-way, east to west, for a 60-day pilot period. I will be discussing the PSE&G redevelopment area and changing the designated developer from Park Place at Maplewood to Maplewood Urban Renewal. And then we will lastly be talking about our 2014 best practices inventory report. We'll have a consent agenda, and we are going to remove from the consent agenda item number 5, and we're going to deal with that. That's the PSE&G redeveloper, and we're going to deal with that at the time that we have our discussion item. The other items on the consent agenda is we have a few contracts. We'll be appointing 2 new probationary police officers. We have some approvals of submitting grant requests and bills and claims and a couple other contract awards, and we have minutes of September 16th. We're not done yet. We have another public comment period. If you'd like to speak towards the end of the meeting, you can come up at that time. Again, just share with you what you have with us. We have reports from the from the construction code official. We have administrative reports from elected officials, and then we will adjourn. Before we get into the proclamations, I just want to announce the update on the post office redevelopment project. I know some of you may have received information from us. We posted it on our website, and we sent out a email blast. You may have read it on one of the blogs or one of the story on Village Green, what have you, or even the News Record. But the developer that we had, it was a partnership between L&M Development Partners and Balter Development Partners. That partnership disbanded. The principal of Balters had some serious illnesses around May, and by the time he was ready to come back, he made a decision that that was not going to be the case, so that partnership dissolved. Also, the fact that Kings was not going to move across the street kind of put them in a position that they didn't want to move forward. So what we did is we reached out to 5 developers. These are developers that have built either in Maplewood or South Orange. The developer that built the Maplewood crossing on Burnett Avenue, the developer across the street at the Station House, the developers in South Orange that built the avenue, which is behind the supermarket there, and lastly, the developer that just built the gateway on South Orange Avenue. We brought them in. We set up a screening committee that was made up of Mr. Desiderio, our attorney, Annette De Palma, who is the Director of Community Relations and handles our economic and community development work, and Julie Doran, who is the manager of the Maplewood Village Special Improvement District. So that screening committee tonight is going to be is recommending to the Township Committee 3 developers to move into the next stage. Those developers are J.M. Petrucci Company, JMF Properties, and Sterling Properties. And so the Township Committee is going to be moving forward with that. We'll be asked to get approval tonight to set up a special meeting, a negotiating meeting with these 3 developers on October 22nd. And between now and October 22nd, the 3 developers will meet with the Maplewood Village Alliance to discuss the design. These 3 developers that have moved into the next round have all committed to build the building that was approved by the Maplewood Village Alliance and that we have given approval to. There may be some slight modifications, and that's what the process of negotiation will be. So our plan is to move forward after our meeting with the developers on October 22nd. We'll have 2 weeks that we'll complete our due diligence with the developer that we feel should rise to the top of those 3. And then on November 5th, we expect to designate that developer as the preferred developer for the post office project. Meanwhile, the post office will stay in that building until February 15th, and then it will move down the street to 195 Maplewood Avenue. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not moving there. It is moving there. Also, the carriers have moved to Union, and there's been some concern about people who get those slips that say you received a package or you have to sign for a certified letter, and you do not have to go to Union. The process that we've negotiated with the post office is that if it occurs that you're not home when something is to be delivered and you get that slip, the letter carrier will go back to Union with that. The next morning, all of those will be bundled together and brought to the Maplewood post office. So if you get a slip for anything that needs to be held or signed for, you will be able to pick it up the next day at the Maplewood post office. I just did a hold on vacation mail, and at the conclusion, we came back and we went to the Maplewood post office and picked up the mail there. It wasn't at Union, it was waiting for us at the Maplewood post office. So I can't say that there won't be kinks because we're dealing with the post office and they are like the hardest entity in the world to deal with, but we are working with their customer service people to make sure that all these transitions that are occurring with the post office do not affect our residents in any negative way. So that was a very long introduction, but I wanted to get that information out and wanted to make sure that people understand where we were. We're still moving forward with the development project with the post office. We think it's a plus for the township. With that, Mr. Ryan, you're up for your...
Thank you. I believe we have some guests from the Maplewood Women's Club who are here to receive the proclamation for Mental Illness Awareness Week. So if you'd come up and join me at the microphone. Would you like to introduce yourselves before we go ahead?
I'm Joanna Ponte, the president of the Maplewood Women's Club. My treasurer,
Bobby Rosengarten.
Caroline Farnsworth.
Thank you very much for coming out to receive this proclamation. And then perhaps I'll let you, if you'd like to say a few words afterward. Well, so this is a proclamation for Mental Illness Awareness Week, which is October 5th through 11th, 2014. Whereas mental illness is a term used for a group of disorders causing severe disturbances of thinking, feeling, and relating. Whereas mental illness can affect persons of any age, sex, race, religion, social, or economic background. And whereas during the course of any given year, 5.5 million Americans are disabled by severe mental illness. And whereas nearly 2/3 of all people with diagnosable mental disorders do not seek treatment because of stigma, ignorance, and lack of appropriate services and treatment options. And whereas mental illness impacts 1 in 4 individuals. Now therefore, I, Gerard Ryan, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby proclaim the week of October 5 through 11, 2014, as Mental Illness Awareness Week in the Township of Maplewood. And I present you with this proclamation.
thank you very much.
Thank you, and if you'd like to...
Good evening, everyone. December, the Maplewood Women's Club will be celebrating our 98th year in this community. We're still big and we're still strong, and we still do all our community service. Every 2 years, we are given a project to do from Washington, D.C., our headquarters. And this year was mental illness, also known as NAMI. So the Maplewood Women's Club will be raising money for NAMI, raising them with backpacks to give the patients when they leave the hospitals, they have something to go home with. We are still continuing to do our work with the battered women's clubs. We do over 100 battered women's shelters. We're also working with the libraries and the schools, and we are working with the community here to help Maplewood, because this is where we are at, and this is where our money goes to, in Maplewood, to help everyone that we could. So I want to thank you, the mayor, for doing this for us, and everyone, and we're still alive. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Brownlee?
Okay. I'm not sure if we have any representatives of the fire
The
department.
fire department's here. Yeah.
It's never high enough for me. Okay. Whereas the Township of Maplewood is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Maplewood, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires killed more than 2,700 people in the United States in 2013, according to the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, and fire departments in the United States responded to 369,500 home fires, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. 3 out of 5 home fire deaths result from fires in properties without working smoke alarms, and in 1/5 of all homes with smoke alarms, none were working. And whereas when smoke alarms should have operated but did not do so, it was usually because batteries were missing, disconnected, or dead. And whereas Maplewood residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room, outside each separate sleeping area, and on every level of the home. And whereas Maplewood residents who have planned and practice a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas the Maplewood Fire Department is dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education, and whereas the 2014 Fire Prevention Week theme, Working Smoke Alarms Save Lives, Test Yours Every Month, effectively serves to remind us that we need working smoke alarms to give the time to get out safely. Now therefore, I, Marlon K. Brownlee, of the Maplewood Township Committee, on behalf of the Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby proclaim October 5th to 11th, 2014, as Fire Prevention Week throughout this township, and I urge all the people in Maplewood to test their smoke alarms at least every month by pushing the test button, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Maplewood's Fire and Emergency Services Department during Fire Prevention Week in 2014.
I'd like to thank the Township Committee and the citizens of Maplewood and for his proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. This is a popular week with the public that we go out there to the public. A lot of them are the school children, and try to emphasize fire safety in the home. And once in a while, it's nice to hear on the news across the country when some of this advice and education to these children has worked. And again, I'd like to thank you, and on behalf of the Maplewood Fire Department, I can assure you we practice fire prevention all year round, not just the 1 week of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Larrier?
Good evening. I would just like to say before I read this proclamation that when I was just out of college, my sister lost a friend to breast cancer, and this young woman was not yet 30 years old. A colleague of mine lost his wife who was not yet 40, and then I have had several relatives, older relatives, well, not old, certainly, in their 50s and 60s, who have lost their battle with breast cancer. But gladly, I know several who have beaten this disease. So it impacts many people. And so I don't know if there's anyone here who has been impacted by this disease, but if you have, or you know someone and you would like to come up, I would ask you to do that now. If not, I will certainly read this. And you have on your pink. Excellent. Thank you. And I'll take off my glasses so I can see. Whereas October 2014 is the National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas breast cancer is the most common cancer among women in the United States, more common than any cancer except lung cancer, and whereas in 2014, an estimated 232,340 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in women in the United States, and 39,620 breast cancer deaths are expected. And whereas, while breast cancer in men is rare, it does happen, with an estimated 2,360 new cases of breast cancer expected to be diagnosed in men in 2014. And whereas death rates from breast cancer have been declining, these decreases are thought to be the result of treatment advances, earlier detection through screening, and increased awareness, and mammography is the best available method of detecting breast changes that may be cancerous. And whereas pink ribbons and pink have been the symbol of the fight against breast cancer since 1993, I now, India Larrier, on behalf of Mayor Vic DeLuca of the Township of Maplewood and the rest of the Township Committee, do proclaim October 2014 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Maplewood, and call upon all citizens, private businesses, nonprofit organizations, and all other interested groups to join in the activities that will increase the awareness and understanding of breast cancer and what they can do to prevent and control breast cancer, and urge Maplewood to show support by going pink. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have presentations for Solarized Soma, and maybe we could have Mr. McCoy come up and say a little bit about Solarized Soma before we do the presentations, if you don't mind, because we're wanted to do this now to encourage more participation. So we'll stand behind you.
Okay. Numbers. But there are a number of
Yeah, we have their names.
Numbers of committee members also.
Okay, so you can identify.
Yeah, it's okay. I have Marlon's problem. So Solarized Soma is a volunteer effort by Maplewood and South Orange neighbors to increase awareness that solar is a very good option right now. And we've had, since April when we started this, there have been over 300, actually 350 different residents that have sought an assessment to see if they were suitable. A lot of people have trees and can't do it. So far, there have been 22 contracts signed, and there are more in the works. One of the things, there are a couple of motivations. Installing solar is almost always a very good financial thing to do, but also environmentally. The systems that have been installed right now basically replace, it depends on the size of the system, but something like 5,000 to 10,000 pounds of carbon dioxide that would have been produced by the electricity. That's for each house, each year. These systems are going to be around for 25 years, so it's a major impact. And people who can do it, it's a very valuable contribution to the town's. The town has a goal of reducing our overall climate change impact, our greenhouse gas impact, and this is a way that individual households can participate in that. One of the things, The program is still ongoing. We're going to continue our outreach for the rest of the month, and then the process continues. It takes a few months to work through the contracts and all that, but anybody who hasn't already should get an assessment if they think they're interested. One of the things that the way this program is organized, we have an arrangement with a contractor who has made a special offer based on the ability to do a lot of work in Maplewood and South Orange at one time. And the program is arranged by tiers. The more we get, the more the price goes down. And so this week, actually, we went into a new tier. So everybody who's participated in the system will be getting 10 cents per watt, which translates to something like $400 to $800 back from this. And if we, that's everybody, and the new ones will get it at a lower price. So it's ongoing. Just if I can make one announcement of something that's happening. Okay. We've had, my wife and I have had solar panels for 10 years, but we, for various reasons, including getting a plug-in electric car, we need more. So we're having a few additional panels installed on our house this Saturday. It's 17 ball terrace from 1 to 4. If anybody wants to see the process and meet people who have had it, gone through it. So it's 17 ball terrace off of Boyden near Parker, and from 1 to 4. Let me there are various people here. I don't even know all the people who have participated, but there are some members of the volunteer committee here. If you guys don't mind standing up, Mary Barber has been working on this from the beginning. Diane Simmons has been joined us recently, and they're actually all together 7 or 8 people who've been involved at various times in the 2 towns. I think that's enough.
Okay, good. So Ms. Leventhal's going to read off your names, and then you can come on up, and we'll give you a certificate, and then if you can stay up here. Are we taking any pictures tonight?
Okay, we'll start with Michael Goodman and his family.
Fine, the whole family's got to go.
Yeah, everybody.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, no, you can just stay right here, okay?
Is it cool to have some?
Next guy.
Next, okay. Kim Chan and family. Is Kim here? Okay. Esther Siskin and family. Mary Barber. And family, sorry. Sorry.
Once you get in the back here, great.
Eric Singer and family. Not here. Ian Flam and family.
Stand over here, great, thank you.
We have Lauren Sullivan and family.
All right, or John.
Oh, John. Or John is.
That's what it says here, just got it here. Hi, how are you?
Miriam McLeod. Miriam McLeod and family. Linda Mastrandanano, family. No. Bill Mark, family. Martin Saperli and Kelly Quirk. Catherine Moranto. Rick Hankey. Some of these people haven't actually had it installed yet because, it just takes some time to get these things going, but it's coming. Mark Madonna. Tiago Terzi and family. Bob McCoy.
And family.
And family. Yeah.
Bob?
And Aaron Lifschultz. And family. And family. Susan? Okay.
Get you up here, we'll get a picture of you all. Okay, you gonna stay in there? Yeah. Go back here, why don't you just work your way in here? There you go, perfect. Can you get us all? Say solarize.
Thank you. Thank you all for making Maplewood one of the best places to live.
Nice job.
Now I sent you.
Thank you.
Minor typo.
Okay, we are now going to move into public comment, and certainly everyone's invited to stay or leave or whatever you'd like to do. Our first speaker this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members
Good evening.
of the Maplewood Township Committee. For the record, I'm Deborah Collins, Director of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action for the County of Essex and the county's liaison to the Township of Maplewood. Here are this evening's announcements. On Friday, October 10th at 7 p.m. at the Turtleback Zoo Education Center, there will be a guest lecture by Joel Greenberg. This talk looks at 3 birds, each representing a different outcome at the hands of people. They'll be examining looking at the passenger pigeon, Kirtland's warbler, and the whooping crane. Admission is free, however, advanced registration is required. To register, please call 973-731-5800. That's 973-731-5800. On Tuesday, October 14th at 12 noon, at the Essex County South Mountain Recreation Complex, Turtleback Zoo Education Building, 560 Northfield Avenue, West Orange, New Jersey. The county will hold a press conference where we will announce that the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund will award $150,000 to each Essex municipality to support open space preservation, park development, and historic preservation. If you'd like more information or if you'd like to RSVP, please call Lisa Smith at 973-621-4400 by Friday, October 10th. That's Lisa Smith, 973-621-4400. The County Executive, the Board of Chosen Freeholders, and the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs invite you to see artists at work at the Riker Hill Art Park. Fine and decorative arts open house and sale Saturday, November 1st and Sunday, November 2nd, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., 284 Beaufort Avenue, Livingston, New Jersey, located off Eisenhower Parkway near Route 10. This too is a free event, open to the public. For more information, call 973-268-3500. That's 973-268-3500. Now, our office, the Office of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action, will host an event on November 13th called The Real Shark Tank, Find out how to raise money for your innovative business ideas from angel investors. This will be held at McClune's Boathouse Restaurant if you're interested. This is pre-registration. Please call 973-621-2011, 973-621-2011. And it's not a bit too early to talk a little bit about the holiday season. Holiday candlelight tours will begin Thursday, December 4th, 11th, and 18th. There's a $5 entrance fee, and you can take a guided tour during the holidays at Essex County's Kip Castles Park. Space is limited. However, if you'd like more information, please call 973-239-2465. That's 973-239-2465. And copies of each of these announcements have been left with the Township Clerk, Ms. Ritson. Thank you. But do you have any questions or concerns that you'd like us to relay to county officials?
I'd like to please repeat when you were talking about $150,000 for municipalities from county open space. There was noise in the back, and
Let me tell you a little bit more about
hope I heard it right.
The 22 municipalities that make up Essex County range from center cities to sprawling suburbs. One element that binds us is the recognition of the importance of park development and maintenance for the benefit of our residents. Walking paths to keep seniors active, playgrounds for parents and youngsters, and preserving historic landmarks contribute to the beauty of Essex County. We're proud to support our town's efforts to keep Essex green, so please join us at a press conference where we will announce that the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund will award $150,000 to each Essex municipality to support open space preservation, park development, and historic preservation. This press conference will be held on October 14th at 12 noon at the Essex County South Mountain Recreation Complex, Turtleback Zoo Education Building. There's a number to call to RSVP, and that number is 973-621-4400, 973-621-4400, and you should ask for Lisa Smith.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you very much for coming out again this month.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Come on up. No, yeah, this is just an open time. Just have to give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Allison Grant. I'm here to represent the Tuscan Prospect Neighborhood Association, and I'm going to read the letter that I just gave you because it's easier that way. So I'm here to express our concerns about the excessive number of vehicle accidents that occur on Prospect Street at the curve near Summer Avenue. In addition to the accidents, there are daily episodes of drivers careening dangerously around the corner despite the suggested 15-mile-per-hour posted speed. Residents in this area are concerned about the safety of the many children walking to nearby Tuscan School as well as all area schools. We're also concerned about and have experienced damage to our property. I've included pictures for you all to see of several recent accidents when we started keeping pictures of them. For example, as recent as September 19th, there was a car that crashed into a tree in front of 707 Prospect Street, and the car was totaled. On September 6th, a vehicle crashed into a wooden garden wall at 709 Prospect Street and destroyed the wall. In March, a vehicle hit a tree and curb and flipped over into the driveway of 707 and 709 Prospect Street. A car hit the tree in February in front of 705 Prospect Street. I live at 705 Prospect Street, and I frequently have cars in my front lawn. One time at 3 o'clock in the morning, a car missed my front door by about 10 feet. Property. There was no police report that night. We've also included pictures of damaged trees. Looking at the trees in front of any of these properties, you can easily see that they've been damaged over and over again. In addition to these documented incidences, there have been multiple events when cars have hit the trees in front of these properties or come up on the front lawns of our homes. I had previously been saving police reports, and I have police reports dated 7/22/11, 7/9/09, 6/5/09. Sometimes police were not involved because cars just come onto our front lawn and then drive away. There was also an accident where a vehicle hit the home at 697 Prospect Street, damaging the structure. The home at 49 Summer Avenue was hit several years ago. One of the consequences of these many car accidents is the destruction and removal of several of the yellow arrow signs that mark the curve in front of my house at 705 Prospect Street. At one time, there were 4 signs. However, 2 were taken down by cars and were not replaced. One of the 2 remaining ones is almost out of the ground and is crooked so that it is no longer being reflected well. So we would like to request that this can immediately be remedied. We also would like to request an assessment and plan by the township engineer to address our concerns. As a result of these incidences, our children cannot play in their yards. We have to be fearful when we do yard work, particularly if we have to shovel the sidewalk, because that adds an additional element. And we have to worry when we send our children off to school. I literally say to my son every day when he leaves to walk to the high school, watch for cars. I've gotten it by now, but I can't stop saying it. In addition, the impact of the repeated accidents has resulted in an abnormal level of reactive stress when we hear the screeching of a car careening around the bend. Wait for the crashing sound, which luckily doesn't always come. Any one of my neighbors who live in my neighborhood, in my area, will tell you that they hear it every day and it frightens us every time. It definitely got worse after the one car ended up on its roof. We're grateful that up to this point, no one has been seriously injured, but at some point, it is likely that a pedestrian will be hit or someone will be catastrophically injured in a vehicle. And so we would like to request that action be taken on this problem before it's too late. I've included contact information for 3 of us who've gotten involved. They are very especially concerned, and I've also included signatures of many of the neighbors who are also concerned about this.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. So we had talked to the Township Committee earlier this month, actually last month, in front of the post office, and one of the neighbors on Summer came over and talked to us about this.
Yeah,
so
that's my next door neighbor, David Bickett. He told us
so
he spoke.
we put it on for discussion at our Planning and Engineering Committee, which was supposed to be last week and got delayed till this morning. So we did talk about it this morning. Mr. Ryan is the chair of that committee, so I'm going to ask him to give you an update of what we're talking about and what we've charged the engineer to do.
Oh, thank you.
So, yes, thank you. As I mentioned to you, you handed me this. Oh, we talked about this morning. This was brought to our attention by your neighbor. We've asked our engineer as an urgent matter to give us a detailed assessment of what can be done there and what all of our options are. One of the things we weren't aware of this morning, which maybe Mr. Manning we could bring to your attention now, we weren't aware that there were signs that had been taken out that haven't been replaced. And so Mr. Manning's taken a note that we can, immediately go back in and put those signs back in. But we've asked the engineer to give us a detailed assessment of what our options are. So, we talked about a bunch of different things. We talked about, and any one of these, some of these things are some of these things are easy, some of these things are more difficult, and some of these things are potentially annoying. So, for example, people talk about rumble strips. Which I'm not sure if people would like having rumble strips in front of their house to slow up traffic. People talk about a flashing light to make people aware of the fact that they should be slowing down. We even had a discussion about just investigating the notion of putting a guardrail up You know, that, I don't know how people might feel about having a,
I think most of us who've been terrified by this would be okay with it. truthfully.
so what we've asked the engineer to do is to bring back to us a list of what our options are, and we'll assess what we think ought to be done, and we'll do that in concert with you folks. We'll come up with a list of his recommendations, and we'll have a meeting with folks in the neighborhood about what would make sense. So for example, if we think that a guardrail makes sense, and the people who are going to have the guardrail right in front of their houses don't think that that would be an onerous problem, then that would seem that
But that's an easier
that would
one to do,
seem
of
to
course,
be
than
right.
regrading the road at a different angle.
Yeah, I don't. Some of the things are sort of impossible, and some of the things are unpleasant. Some more than others, right? But you know, certainly, I can think of a number of places in surrounding towns where you sort of come down a hill and there's a really sharp turn, and there are guardrails placed like right on the curb. And if that seems to make sense from an engineering standpoint, and the folks who live near there are okay with it, then maybe that'll be a solution we could put into place. But I don't want to say that that's what we've decided to do. I want the engineer's going to do an assessment.
We wanted to start a discussion. I'm glad it had already been started. I knew that you had spoken to my neighbor David. And we want to let the engineer be the expert, because we're not experts, we're just concerned neighbors. One thing I would like to add on a positive note is some of the people who've been a part of this discussion have suggested that having monitoring by the police department, but I would like to say that the police department is constantly monitoring Prospect Street. I see on my walls, my bedroom windows face Prospect Street because I'm at that curve. Blue and red lights all night long, several times during the night. So I would commend them for making efforts to address very, very much on top of it, but apparently not enough.
Well, I think what we can certainly commit to you that we're not going to implement anything without first having a discussion with the folks like you who are going to be directly affected.
Thanks. Well, we left our contact information on this
Excellent.
letter.
Thank you.
And I don't know if I should leave another one with anybody else. I wasn't sure if the engineer himself would be here. I guess.
If you have another one, yes, it would be
That'd be
good.
great, yeah.
Did you want to add something to, just if you could tell us your name and address?
I'm closer to Springfield, but I'm on Harvard Avenue. This issue is,
I'm sorry. Can you,
need to be on the mic
get
so we can
closer
hear
to the mic? There you go.
got to be 15 years ago, walking my children to school at Tuscan. A friend of ours, with the crossing guard there, car coming along, Prospect did not stop, and there was an accident. One of the Tuscan parents, I was right there. And I remember at the time, a lot of the Tuscan school parents were asking for basic stoplight, and we're told, no, it's too much money, but
No, that's not the.
I'm just
okay.
saying,
Whoever
this is a
told you.
long time
Okay,
ago. I'm
yeah.
just saying this is a long time ago, so it's a problem that's not new. That's my only point.
Okay.
And on the way to school is a pretty dangerous, even with a crossing guard there.
That's my biggest concern, is that
Yeah.
one day one of these kids
Yeah,
is
one
going
of
to be
the-
hit by a car.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Just on the light, there are certain regulations. I don't know who told you it was too much money, but they were wrong.
I don't know, maybe it's a crossing guard.
Maybe, yeah, but there are certain regulations that warrant a light, and the traffic up there is just not at that, because it has a light at the next corner. So that's why. But we're going to look at how to solve this problem on the turn. We have. Right, great, thank you.
The email addresses here are the best way to?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Anyone else, gentlemen, you want to come up?
Hello, Mayor.
Hi.
Members of the Town Committee, thank you for having us and letting us address you tonight. My name is John Garbarino, and this is my business partner, Spencer Ante. Just to kind of give you a background of who we are. We are the guys behind the blue signs you might be seeing around town. So we're here to tell you why they're out there and what we're up to and why we hope they could stay for a little bit longer. My My background is that I've been an entrepreneur, working for startups since 1997. Spencer just left the Wall Street Journal after 4 years where he was deputy bureau chief. We met in Maplewood. He's my neighbor. He lives 2 doors next to me. I came to him with an idea for a mobile app. That's the business I'm in. And the idea was, you know, there's all these inefficient ways that people are communicating about who to use locally, what's the local services, you know, how to find these local services. There should be an app that makes it really easy for friends to connect and find out who they use for local services. He thought this was a brilliant idea. He said, I'm going to help you however I can. He left the Wall Street Journal, not right away, but after we basically were ready, we knew the app was going to launch. And we did launch this app. We launched this app last week. That's why the signs are out there, and we're trying to build awareness of what this app does. It helps promote local businesses. It connects friends so that they can see each friend uses for painter, plumber, contractor, and so forth. Ironically, what this app does is potentially minimize the need for signs in yards. Painters, plumbers, people that are out doing work, this is like that, but on steroids, because friends are easily able to see who each other uses, and they're sharing that through the app. So we launched 6 days ago. In 5 days, we've gotten to 1,000 downloads. We have a very active app right now. This is great. We were, Spencer was on Fox Good Day New York the day after we launched. Got a great article on TechCrunch.
See right here.
Yeah, there it is, yeah. Mashable, the Village Green wrote a piece on us. Our goal is to raise money. Our goal is to hire local people. We've already been talking to friends who are ready to come on board, people who work at Yahoo, people who, there is a tremendous amount of talent in this area in Maplewood and South Orange. The article in the Village Green alluded to what I referred to as Silicon Jersey. It's fun to laugh at, we're not joking. There is so much talent here. Somebody on my street near me, Ian Spalter, was the head UI designer for Foursquare. You might have all heard of Foursquare. You check into bars and say, hey, I'm the mayor. We're building apps here that actually solve real problems. Ian was gobbled up by Google. He no longer lives here. He lives out in Silicon Valley. There's a tremendous amount of talent here, and you know, in 8 to 12 months, we would love to be getting space in the map building or somewhere in town. 50 people, 70 people, working at this great organization we're trying to create. We've talked to venture capitalists. They have told us that, you know, basically they've given us some metrics that we need to hit of 10,000 active users in the app. We're on our way. We're really close. Or not close, but we're getting there. We've got a good trend going right now to hit those metrics. So we're asking the committee, you know, to consider, you know, letting us leave these signs, which, you know, you can call them advertising. Quite frankly, these are our friends. The guy that I moved to Maplewood with is the guy in the yellow house on Valley. I've known him since I was 9 years old. He's putting the sign in his yard to show support for this application that we're trying to get off the ground, this business that we're trying to launch. We are extremely Jersey proud. We're extremely Maplewood proud. And I'm a Philly guy. I grew up in Philly. Never thought I'd say that, and I am. So we're trying to, you know, get this going, and we're just looking for the committee's support to maybe allow us to do this for a little bit longer. You know, someone in the building committee said to me that there's exceptions made for people that are doing work, services that are being used inside the house. They can put inside the yard. People inside these houses are using our app. They're sharing our app, and they're solving a real world problem, and they're able to find out who they can use day to day, whether it's a summer camp for their kid, you know, whether it's a doctor, you know, for themselves or whoever. This app is doing that, and it's unlike anything that's out there today. Yelp and other services are basically showing you what strangers are saying, and you're relying on having to sort of take a leap of faith. This app is really innovative, and we think it's going to be a big thing. We'd like to put Maplewood on the map with this initiative. So we're not looking to, you know, winter's coming, snow's coming. We're not looking to be out there very long, and we think we could actually get this off the ground to the point that we get funded. And when there is that funding, then there's local advertising being spent. But again, we're going around to, I'll share this with you, these cards, going around to local businesses and giving them these cards that they can say to their customers, download this application.
You're not on Android yet. You're not on Android yet.
This app says the account will be used to add news to your add GMD Carpentry to your list in the category of plumber, and they can give it to their customers. This is better than asking a customer to go and give them a Google review, because when their customer gets it, they share it with their circle of friends, and that's where people are looking for recommendations, not from strangers online. So that's why we think we're going to be successful, and we're just hoping that you guys might consider letting our friends keep showing our support. These signs in the yards. We don't need too much time, but maybe for the fall.
Do you have a sense of how many signs you have up?
We only made 45, and I think there's probably half of that up. Right?
Is that that's the maximum you're going to make, 45?
They cost about $10 each. Actually, they were made by a local artist. He was silk screening them in my garage. We're all pitching in. We made them ourselves. You know, we don't, and they're nice looking, they're fun looking. They're not like an eyesore.
I don't think we need any more. I think that should be.
That should be it. Yeah.
You know, the difficulty is that we understand what you're presenting to us, and you know, the ordinance was written in a different time, but yet we are pretty stringent about the signs. I mean, obviously, political signs are free speech. Nonprofits get to put up stuff about events. You see the rent party signs and things like that. But for businesses, it's quite regulated. You know, only like when I had my house painted, a painter had to sign up and had to have it down so many days at the end of that process. So this is a bit different for us to digest.
You probably never had something like this before.
No.
Yeah.
No, but you know, essentially it still is advertising. So
We're not a national brand. We're a local business,
Right.
that whose objective is to do something that helps promote local businesses.
Right, but suppose Jerry Rose, the florist, had 45 signs put up there and said, you know, I use Jerry Rose, the florist.
He's not helping other local businesses. Helping
So
Jerry
that's how we should measure you, is that,
Rose.
I mean, it is a
the
private
uniqueness
business.
It's the uniqueness that we're bringing to the table. You know, this is not, you know, a pawn shop where we're saying, you know, cash for gold. You know, that would be really bad. Not to equate Jerry Rose to that, but this is something that is, again, unique. I feel like we are positioned to, I mean, if you follow what's going on in the tech world and in our space, what we're doing, it's very hot right now with local services and helping businesses. We think, you know, we're getting a lot of recognition from media, national media, local media, that we're onto something here.
I just want to add one thing. Yeah. I moved to Maplewood last summer with my family, my wife, and my 2 kids, and we love the town, largely because great neighbors, you meet great people in Maplewood, it makes you feel at home. You know, to me, this just boils down to, we want to be treated the same way, it seems like other local businesses are being treated who get to put their signs in the yards, and they are expressions of support by people who are using the services, like the painter has the sign, the broker has the sign. We're just another form of that, more or less. So I don't understand why we can't get the same treatment that those businesses get, if that's allowed.
So I understand that's your argument. I guess we have to digest it. Anyone else have, Ms. Larrier?
I guess my thinking as far as you're being treated the way other businesses would be treated, I would think then perhaps maybe if I used XYZ Painter, I could put the XYZ Painter's sign on my lawn along with yours, because this is who I use, until XYZ Painter is done with my house, at which time I would think both signs would come down. To me, that's parity, not you're being able to pretty much be, as the mayor said, advertising on a regular basis or even throughout the township. So that, to me, that would be my idea of parity.
That's a fair point.
And
that's all we're asking for, really. We're not asking to put these signs up for an indefinite period of time, just for a short period right now. We're just getting the business off the ground, and we can, whatever, you know, reasonable amount of time that is, would probably be good.
And our friends know, the friends that are putting these yards in, they know that they're doing this to help us seed this business here and to get the metrics we need to go out and raise money. And once that's done, you know, then our work is done, effectively. Their work is done with the people that are putting the signs in the yard. As far as the support in that way, is done.
It's an interesting circumstance, right? It's different from any other thing we've seen, you know. So I'm going to have my house painted, so painter's going to ask me if he or she can put the sign on my lawn, and sure, it's never really come up that a friend of mine has said, I'm starting a business. Could I, put a sign up on your lawn would you do me a favor and advertise my business for me, not because I'm doing work for you now, but because do me a favor. And, look, it's a cool idea. I tried to see if I could get it on my phone. You should get it on Android.
We're 2 weeks away from Android.
I got it on my phone. But,
you have it?
Yeah, I got it today. I downloaded it, but.
Thank you.
So I'm one of the metrics. So, but it still is it could be a slippery slope, where if someone says, I want to start a printing shop in my house, and I'm going to go to my friends and say, you printed up some invitations for me, or you printed up a flyer for my neighborhood association, would you put a sign out that says, Vic's Printing? How do we not allow that to sort of escalate where we allow you guys to do something like this?
Well, I think we're unique. I'm not bragging here. We have a lot of friends between us, and so we have a lot of people that are putting these out there. I don't think you're ever going to be in a situation where you're going to have, I think it's unique. I don't think this is going to come up a lot.
Yeah,
I think
it's just
you're
a
not going to
normal
be in this
course
situation.
of living in a town. I don't think there's going to be an outburst of sign making.
The able baker doesn't need to do that because he's got a phenomenal business and everyone knows him.
Well, let Mr. Brownlee wanted to say something first, but go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that you said, times change, if you would, and obviously the ordinance was crafted in an age where this type of circumstance didn't exist. One thing that we might want to consider, as you know, I like consistency. What is the rule, and when do we say yes and when do we say no? We should have a clear arbiter for that. I'm sympathetic to the position that they're stating, but I guess I would like to see it somehow codified to, if this very well could be something that's going to come up repeatedly. And I think we should have some sort of objective way of indicating. I think the qualitative difference between the circumstance where you're making the parallel with the other business is that there's a defined finite period of time where they're using the service. The painter being the example, the person's painting my house, I put the sign out for the time they're painting the house. In here, there's also defined purpose. You want to start this local business, if you would. There needs to be some sort of equivalent definition in my mind for when you have to take it down. Just like in the painter's case, there's when you're done, you have to take it down within 7 days. Okay, well, you're starting a business. What's sort of the equivalent, arbiter when, okay, now you need to take it down? That doesn't exist right now. So, I don't know if this is something that's, we would need to talk about in code enforcement or something like that to come up with some sort of a way of defining what this is. That doesn't necessarily solve the problem of today, but I think it's something that could come up, subsequently, and therefore it's something we probably need to address.
When is the next code enforcement meeting?
Actually, it's Tuesday.
Wasn't it pushed
No,
back?
it's Thursday. It's pushed back to Thursday, correct? Yes, Thursday, the 16th.
16th. Okay, so we have a code enforcement committee, and we have an opportunity to meet with our building official at that meeting. I think we could see if anybody else has any other comments and questions here, but my suggestion would be we kick it there and kind of dig into it a little deeper.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting to get a new spin on a business like this and to say, gee, how does that fit into this existing structure of ordinances?
Mm-hmm. But it is a little, isn't it a little strange that you do an internet service, but you're using a pretty old-fashioned way of advertising? That's a lawn sign.
I believe in outdoor advertising, and I believe in creating a buzz.
Yeah, I guess we do too, but that's the dilemma, is a private lawn in a residential area the proper place to have the outdoor advertising. That's the kind of issue we got to grapple with.
Yeah, and right now, the way we see it is that, again, these are friends, Maplewood neighbors and friends that are expressing their support. They want this thing to work. And down the road, it means, you know, revenue generated in this town, jobs being created in this town, and very aggressive and very serious, and we're on the right track to do that. And then, you know, and spend money in this town. That's our goal.
Mr. Desider,
One
I'm
more
sorry, go
question.
ahead.
Just for my own benefit, down the road, when you are wildly successful in this endeavor, will this still be Maplewood Friends, or will you actually be bidding for other companies, other outside of Maplewood? So you'll be big, and
Well, when the app launched, it actually launched across the entire United States, so we already have users in other cities around the country, including Chicago and Los Angeles. Yes.
thereby being kind of a national brand, right?
I'm sorry.
We're building we're trying to build a brand that, you know, will translate, you know, outside of Maplewood, and, I'll just close by saying.
We want to stay.
We want to stay in
Maplewood.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just-
Build a
just-
business in Maplewood.
Yeah?
Yes.
Just one additional remark. I mean, just to be clear, my thoughts on this are not contingent upon what your noble aspirations might be. We promise to keep it local. We promise to hire Maplewood residents. That actually doesn't factor into my decision process, because I don't know that we can ever legislate that type of thing. Well, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. It's strictly a function of what rules should govern whether or not it's permissible. So I appreciate the point you're making. It's really just to me, a question of what's the equivalent. What's the equivalent of the paint job has finished, so you have 7 more days? In the case like this, where you're starting a business, what's sort of the equivalent trigger point? And that's really my question, and that's what I want to discuss.
The goal we're trying to achieve, and the goal that we're trying to achieve is that we hit a critical mass area of users, and we're quickly on our way. 1,000 people in 5 days. That's 10% of the adult, roughly 10% of the adult population of Maplewood. So arguably in 45 days, we could be at that point we need to be at.
But again, my case is where, again, another local business starts. They're not going to have numbers like that. So I can't put a code in, when you get 10,000 users in the legislation. It's, again, so it's more the qualitative, what is the trigger. So we're not going to solve it today. That's not my objective, but just letting you know my
Can I
position.
just ask until, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I just want to make sure I cut off Mr. Desiderio, so I want to give him a chance to say something, but go ahead.
I just wanted to say, until we are going to take it into the code committee. Until we do that, their signs are still on lawns, their signs are still actually against our current codes. So I think we shouldn't let them leave without having some direction as to what they can do until we figure this out.
What would you recommend?
I would recommend that their signs come down. I'm sorry. Only because that is what our ordinance says.
Mr. Desiderio?
Mr. Desiderio?
I don't think you have an option. Under the existing code, they are not permissible, and I don't think you have an option to be subjectively decide what to enforce and not enforce. If you want to change the ordinance, you certainly are entitled to do that, and the code committee can do it. But as what's there on the books right now, they are not allowed.
I don't think your microphone's working, by the way, but... Okay.
No?
I'm picking you up.
Yeah, I'm old.
Yeah, now it's
They are not presently allowed under the code. If you choose to change the ordinance, you certainly have the power to do that as a result of the Code Enforcement Committee, but I don't think you can subjectively decide which signs are going to be allowed and which signs are not, regardless of what the motivations are of the proponents of the signs.
Question.
Mr. Brownlee.
Question, how does this compare to the basketball hoop discussion that we had recently.
Another discussion, and I.
No, I'm saying in terms of
what.
suspending that piece that we did at that meeting.
And I agree with you. I think that the consistency is an issue that we have to address.
Can we wait till we address the consistency in the next meeting?
No, I think the problem is we have these things
don't have
up
an
and they're violating what we have on the books right now. So if we're we can't allow this stuff to stay there. I mean, we don't have, what are we saying? Why are we saying that if these things aren't allowed, they should stay up right now? I think what we're talking about is there something we can talk about that would enlighten us to want to change something? I can't even guarantee that we would change it at the code enforcement meeting, but at least we could have more of a conversation.
Maybe I'm asking the same question again, and maybe I'm just not sure. When we were at our last meeting or 2 meetings ago, and we had to talk about the basketball hoops that were in violation of our ordinance, and then we took some action that night to quote-unquote suspend until the end of the year when we talk about it in code enforcement, et cetera. We did something that night, and I'm asking, is that scenario something that could apply here as well? I'm not saying whether we will or will not do that, but I'm asking, is that not an equivalent scenario?
The answer is, I think you could probably draw a comparison. I wasn't asked that night what my opinion was, okay?
Well, I had a problem with it as well, but I just want to know if it's equivalent. Okay.
Mr. Manning.
Okay, so basically, you yourself are not, in other words, if a code enforcement person happens to go by and see a sign on a lawn, they have to write a letter to the homeowner telling them they have 10 days to, I think it's 10 days, 10 days to remove that, okay? Now, if they're all over the place, maybe they see everyone, maybe they don't. But they still, there's a time period, and it has nothing to do with you, it has to do with the homeowner. And also an inspector seeing it and actually going through the process.
10 days.
I just wanted to ask, what's the ordinance rule or law that says the painter signs are allowed, but our signs are not allowed?
Section 27156 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations.
And what does it say, sir?
Mayor, with all due respect, I'm not sure this is the proper place to get into discussion as to what the ordinances say.
Well, I think it would be useful.
Explain the law if you're going to ask us to take the signs down.
Whoa. I think it would be useful for all of us to hear it. Is it?
The following template graphics are permitted and do require a permit. Graphics identifying the sale, rental, or lease of the premises on which located an artisan or contractor identification while at work on the premises, subject to a maximum graphic area, and then it goes in, and then it talks about for sale signs and real estate signs. So it applies to artisans or contractors' identification while at work on the premises. And those are the signs that are permitted.
And the Supreme Court has ruled that contractor signs are allowed.
Well, it's commercial speech.
Commercial speech. But we can regulate it.
It also requires a permit.
Yeah, if you want to change the ordinance, you can change the ordinance.
Right. I understand.
It's not permitted under the present ordinance, gentlemen.
I understand.
Regardless of what your motivations are.
Right.
This body, with all due respect, cannot subjectively interpret the ordinances of this township for whatever reasons.
Right.
That is my
So,
advice
Mr. Manning,
to an
going...
attorney, and you certainly can consult an attorney if you think my opinion is incorrect.
Mr. Manning, Mr. Mittermeier has alerted us that he is in the process of notifying the owners of these.
I'm not sure he's notified every owner, but,
No, but
there
he's
are some, yes.
Okay, so he's in the process of telling people to remove the signs.
That's my understanding, but I will double check on that.
Okay.
Is there a penalty?
Yeah, they can, yeah.
Fine?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
a fine. You go to court. I don't know what the fine is.
10 days, though.
They have 10 days.
10 days, though.
10 days to remove it, but that's not the fine. You don't go to jail for 10 days.
No. I'm saying they have 10 days, Mr. Manning was saying.
Yeah. So,
Sir, where could I find out? 'Cause I don't want my friends getting hit with a fine, so where could I find that?
If I understand, if they've gotten a summons, they have 10 days.
It's $50 or $100 the first time.
Well, but they have 10 days.
What? To remove it.
To remove it.
Then
So
it will-
depending
then
on the
it's-
window of time, you might
Okay, so I
take it out
think
of 9
I think
days.
the thing is here, we're certainly willing to have a conversation with you and understand this a little bit more, but right now, the signs violate the ordinance. Because it's a commercial sign and it violates the ordinance. And our building official has alerted us that he's gonna enforce the law, the ordinance, and he has I think he said he was notifying some homeowners already that they have to take it down. Because it doesn't fit the definition of what our ordinance is. So I think you need to tell your friends to take them down and hold them for a while, and then we can meet on the 16th. And you can certainly come to that meeting. We meet at 7:30 in the morning. We meet over here where you saw us this morning. And we can have another conversation about it, but I think it's pretty clear that the signs just don't fit what our ordinance is at the moment.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. We're obviously disappointed with what you're saying here, but I think if you take time to reflect on this, I think, as some of the members of the committee have noted, that times do change.
Right.
And sometimes ordinances and laws and rules need to be updated to reflect current
Right.
times, and we're hoping that when you do consider this, that you take that into account. And it's a great opportunity, actually, for Maplewood to show leadership in local government and, pioneer and support new forms of commerce. So we hope you consider that.
But, and I think that's true, and that's what we'll start the conversation about next week. But one thing is, I think you want to get it right here because you're probably going to run into this in other towns. Probably similar kinds of things. So if we can think through this and see if there's a way to, if it does work, or if there's willingness up here to make a change, then it can become that leadership opportunity and can become a model for wherever else you're going to go.
I've not seen much on, I see a lot about New York startup and what they're doing to help promote that state. I'm not, ads or the going on here, I'm not seeing a lot of that in New Jersey, I think.
New Jersey is different. New Jersey has this thing called home rule where every town gets to make its own rules.
Yeah, I understand. So I think that, something could radiate out of this, what I think is, again, the epicenter of talent, this space, the tech space, which is a pretty hot thing in the news. Technology is in our lives, it's here to stay, and I think Maplewood could be the epicenter of not just that in New Jersey, but it could rival what's going on the West Coast. So hope you take into consider what we're trying to do here. So,
Yes.
All right, thank you.
all right, thanks.
Thank you.
Can you just say your name and address for the record?
Lisa Mark. In my mind...
And your address, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
Your address.
Address.
Oh, 96 Harvard Avenue. Is this business that they're discussing here different or the same as any other home-based business, of which there are many in Maplewood Township? I mean, if they were allowed to put signs up, then anybody that has a home-based business can own.
I think that's the discussion that has to be had.
No,
right?
that's,
we have
a home-based ordinance that does not allow signs to go up.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. Just because it's a different technology, it's still the same to me as a home-based business.
Okay, thank you. You can come up. This is an opportunity to talk to the Township Committee. We've engaged this a little bit. We normally don't do this. This is a time for a public hearing, so public comment, so you can certainly make your comments.
Yes, hello. Well, I work in advertising.
Just say your name for us.
Sorry, my name is Michael Lair. I'm 13 Yale Street. And while I work in advertising and marketing, this is not a marketing discussion. So I just wanted, my goal is pretty clear. I have two things I want to cover. First is I want to alert you of a situation that myself, my family, and about 124 of our neighbors are going through. And then just have a discussion about what can be done, if anything. I don't know if anyone here in the committee lives off of Tuscan Road between Prospect and Amherst, what we call College Hill. If you do, then you're probably really aware of what I'm talking about. But I've been in the town about 7 years now, and in this time, year over year, the power outages keep getting worse and worse. What we experience, the rest of the town doesn't. In fact, what I experience 2 doors down from me doesn't as well. There's definitely a circuit grid that goes up Tuscan Road, and the homes in that proximity to that grid, for some reason, receive more outages than the rest of the town. When I take my kids to school and everyone in the school year is talking about the flicker they saw last night, I say, no, we actually lost power for 2 hours. When a natural disaster like Hurricane Sandy comes to town, and yes, everyone does lose power, the majority of town goes on in 3 or 4 days, and it takes us 7 days, especially when 2 doors down has power and we don't. I've been talking to PSE&G about it. So what triggered it is, over the years, this is getting worse and worse. In the month of September, we had 2 power outages alone. I talked to PSE&G about it on the night of the second outage, and they gave me some misleading information. They told me to take it up with the town. I called the town the next day, talked to the Department of Engineering, and they kind of laughed in my face and said, PSE&G owns Alliance, not the town. So it prompted me to send a note to all my neighbors, and everyone was pretty upset that we've been losing power so much. We all filed complaints with the Board of Public Utilities in the state of New Jersey. Immediately, someone from PSE&G was assigned to the case. He's been working with his crews in the town for the past couple weeks, trying to address the situation and figure out what's going on. Came back with a report last week that basically said PSE&G is recording 7 outages in the last 2 years, and only 3 of those have just affected our circuit, which, unfortunately, myself and my neighbors have not collected a log of all the power outages because, when you lose power, whether it's during the day or the middle of the night, the first thing you think about is, I got to write this down. So unfortunately, we didn't do that. However, 7 outages, when I told the neighbors this information, everyone sort of laughed and said, there's no way, it's been way worse than that. And then the reasons he gave me are more circumstance, so it's trees, animals, squirrels eating at the lines and getting fried. It's very, basically what they're finding is, and what they're reporting back to the state, is that it's sort of isolated incidences. But the concern I have, in talking to the neighbors and, talking to the neighborhood association, some of the older neighbors who've been here 20 plus years, they're concerned as well because they're seeing this more and more active, and we don't know what the problem is. And it's how are we the only ones affected by squirrels when the rest of the street, as I said, I live on Yale Street, and halfway down the block or more, over doesn't have the same problem, or the rest of the town doesn't have the same problem. So we wrote a letter to the engineer of the town, I believe his name is Tom, to ask him for some help in talking to PSE&G, and the gentleman from PSE&G told me he's talking to him as well, but he told me he sort of closed the case on this. So I'm asking for any suggestions, any help, anything we can do, because winter's coming up. Most of the neighborhood is a combination of elderly and, like myself, families with small young children. And losing power, especially in the middle of winter, is not fun. Most of my neighbors have generators. I don't have the money to buy a generator, and plus, when you lose your heat, a generator's not going to fire up your heat. What I've heard is you got to rig a car battery, and I'm not an electronic engineer to be able to do that. So I'm just asking for any suggestions we can do to ratchet up the pressure with PSE&G and to really look at that line and maybe make some it sounds to me they need to make some larger repairs and just fixing small patches along the line.
Do you have a work order number for PSE&G? Whatever you had, your case, do you have any kind of work? Did you get an order number or any kind of number from them?
I didn't. I have, but I'm sure I can do it. I'm sure I can get that. And there's actually a report being filed, and I've asked for a copy of the report. The gentleman I'm working with went on vacation, so he's back, I believe, on Monday, and hopefully I'm going to follow up with him and see where that report is.
Gentleman at PSE&G or
yes,
BPU?
PSE&G. His name's Pete Honan. He is sort of the caseworker, I guess, for this. So once we filed the complaint with the state, he got assigned to the case. Yes.
If I give him my card, email, if he could kind of give us the particulars, then we can bring it to our contact for the government services.
We have someone that we work with who's our government liaison. And if you can get the information to Mr. Manning, we'll call him as Mr. Scott and we'll try to have a meeting with him to see exactly what the problem is.
Be great.
I will say this, because when we learned this in Hurricane Sandy, the grids here are very strange, that you could have, like you're saying, one half of the block lit and the other half not. But the good news is that they know the grids and they have maps of everything, so they can pinpoint, give us the information, and we can push back a little bit as the town. I don't know why they told you contact the engineer, because it really is a PSE&G problem. We have no control over that, but we can certainly be an advocate and ask them to give us information about what's going on with this particular circuit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mr. Brownlee, you had something?
No, I was just chuckling and wondering if I was on the same circuit, because actually we had a brownout just a couple of days ago. It was bright, sunny days, and we'll lose power and our neighbors are on, so we must be right on the border of whatever circuit it is as well. So I have empathy for you. I've lost power any number of times. I'm not talking about Hurricane Sandy. I'm talking about bright, sunny days for seemingly no reason. So I have empathy.
It sounds, again, we learned in Sandy, there's a lot of different, there are feeder lines, and then there are other lines, and it keeps getting broken down and down into a narrow circuit. We've had some difficulty with the feeder line coming down Prospect, taking out some of Springfield, taking out Hilton, some of College Hill, but this sounds like it's more of a circuit, which could be 400 or 500 houses or customers.
Yeah.
Or even less, could even be less. So.
Yeah, he told me it was 124 was the number I was given, but that's just, on those instances.
So if you give Mr. Manning your information, and then we can follow up with Mr. Scott from PSE&G.
All right, great.
Anyone else want to address the Township Committee?
Joe Strupp, 7 Yale Street, editor of MapleWoodian.com. I just want to back up what Michael was saying. We're neighbors, and we've had a problem with PSE&G, and I know it sounds like we're repeating ourselves, but the frustration that we have is getting to the banging the walls level. It is generally a half of Yale Street, and I believe half of Oberlin, half of Bowdoin, and much of Tuscan, if you can sort of picture that area. And there are times when our neighbors down the street have power. We have no power, whether it's for hours, days. Of course, as we mentioned, Hurricane Sandy is obviously something that was bigger than that, but there is a system or a grid or whatever the connection is that seems to hit us, and PSE&G in their continued carelessness and I think downright inept behavior doesn't seem to care about this. And as Michael was saying, and it happened to me as well, when I reach out to them, they shove it off to the township, which is obviously not your position, but obviously you do have pressure you can bear as you do on other things, and we appreciate that. It also comes to the point where PSE&G has systems in place that are more limited than a lot of other areas of the country. I know people who work in utilities in California and other places where you don't have to call and tell them that your power is out. The power is out. They know it, and they should know it. And that the fact that you even have to let them know is sort of embarrassing, especially for the rates we have in the area that we live in. So anything that can be done. I, like others, have been pricing natural gas generators, which of course I can't afford. But I work from home, as many people do. Just the people who were speaking before, obviously, home-based businesses. When you're out of power, you're trapped. I've had to go to the library. I've had to go to other places that are kind enough to offer up the electricity. And if this isn't something that can get handled, I think other towns are probably dealing with PSE&G's ineptness that I know the pressure to bear is what hits them, and regulations are other things that can hit them. So any help is appreciated.
Thank you. Anyone else want to address the Township Committee? Okay, we're going to close the first public comment. We'll have another one later on. We're going to now move to the Board of Health meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, This is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by the mailing of the annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Ms. Leventhal?
Here.
Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Larry?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies to be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the Maplewood Board of Health has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire the Maplewood Board of Health to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Health of the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health of all its regular meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes, thank you. And welcome everyone to the October Board of Health meeting. I will this month entertain a motion for the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Rowe, your report, please.
In response to the breast cancer proclamation you did earlier, it was noted in our nurses' adult clinic reports that they did refer people to a special no-cost or low-cost mammogram program that's run by University Hospital, and we're hoping to develop, we've been talking with them and to develop a stronger relationship with them for women who don't have health insurance for whatever reason and still need to have, proper medical care and mammographies. So we're looking to expand that, and we're talking about going to some beauty shops and daycare centers and wherever I think we might be able to reach people who could use that service. So that's something we're planning on expanding, and we were just actually having several discussions about it with our staff this month. Tomorrow morning at the Maplewood Community Center, Maplewood is hosting a state meeting with the State Health Department concerning hepatitis C, and it's open to mainly North Jersey health departments and health outreach workers, and since we were a central location and we work with them on other projects, they asked if we could host it, and so I'll thank our recreation department for agreeing to let them use the building for that purpose. Our nurses and I were very busy this month. We had meetings with the public school nurses and with the daycare providers, talking about Ebola, talking about this new D68 cold virus, and alerting them to the procedures they need to follow in case there was any suspect problems. I went to a meeting this month in September concerning mold in homes, and while it was Hurricane Sandy that kind of instigated this larger concern, I have to say, as an inspector, I see mold in homes a lot, and particularly in basements, and particularly in basements where people have used drywall to do renovations. And I'll have to say I see it almost every time. Whenever there's closed-in spaces and they don't have proper drainage, maybe there's been some flooding following a rain, or even just heavy humidity in the summer. And so it alerted me to, they had some really nice brochures on what homeowners can do to correct the problem. I get calls from homeowners pretty regularly about this, and now I'm going to have a nice brochure I can send out to people that'll tell them how to fix it themselves. And and that's another service we do. People will ask me to come out and I'll inspect. And a lot of it's what I think of as common sense. Sometimes people don't understand they need to put their drains, their roof drains, downspout drains to drain away from their house. A lot of them have them going right in the ground, and then that water winds up in their basement. So it's another service we perform. That's what I wanted to report. I know there's some other issues which the committee wanted to talk about. The packaging, I believe. Packaging ordinance.
Yes, thank you. There are actually two. There's one thing I also wanted to highlight in your report. The mayor and I met with some people yesterday about an unrelated issue, but the person one of the people we met with happens to be the animal control person for South Orange. Mm-hmm. And she brought up to us the issue of the raccoons.
Yes.
That the high number of raccoons that have been found sick or paralyzed or something of that nature. And I noticed when we received your report that it seems to be significant enough that your ACO officer also included it. So yes. Is there something that residents in Maplewood need to be aware of? Is this an issue that, what are some of the signs that you're seeing quickly, just in case, if there's a higher number in South Orange, there's obviously a higher number here as well.
Yeah, we have been, since the spring, and I don't have exact numbers on it, but we've been picking up raccoons, particularly raccoons, but some other wild animals like groundhogs, that normally the ones we pick up are hit by cars, and we pick up lots of dead animals every year. But these ones were not hit by cars. They seem to have some sort of illness, some sort of paralysis type illness. And of course we immediately worry about rabies whenever that happens. So we had several raccoons tested for rabies. They were negative for rabies. We wound up contacting the New Jersey State Fish, Game and Wildlife Office, and they agreed to let us take them some dead raccoons and they would test them. Their first theory was it was what's called canine distemper, which raccoons can also get. And I just got a report back from them just today, this afternoon, was that they don't know what's causing the raccoons to die. The test for canine distemper came back negative. They want us to bring them more dead raccoons. So what I would tell people in the public to, if they see a raccoon, and this is the same when we were worried about the raccoon rabies, if there's a raccoon acting sick, to call us or call the police. And sick doesn't mean it's walking around trying to get in your garbage can. Sick doesn't, raccoons, their front legs are shorter than their hind legs, so they kind of walk humpbacked. And if they're poking around and climbing the fence and even walking on your deck, that's normal behavior. But if they're staggering and they're falling down and they can't get up, that's the ones we want to hear about.
Thank you. Ms. Leventhal, I know you had an issue.
Well, it's come from both the Environmental Advisory Committee and the Green Team that they asked what the ordinances were in Maplewood regarding styrofoam packaging. And contact with Mr. Rowe have come to learn that we have a very old ordinance that addresses many different chemical products that could be in packaging. And it's an ordinance that was designed in California, and even when we implemented it in the 90s, wasn't that applicable. It wasn't totally applicable to our own community. So I guess, Mr. Rowe, what he thought about this and
well, my sense, it's chapter 198 of the town code. It's called packaging practices. And I don't think it was well crafted. And I'm sorry to say for the people who did it. Some of it's very difficult for a code enforcement officer to enforce because we don't know what type of plastic we're looking at. It also, it included plastic bags at supermarkets, and I'm not sure that was ever the intention, but, and it also just includes food businesses. So that always struck me as strange, is, you know, why only food businesses couldn't use styrofoam, but other businesses could. So what I think of this ordinance is that it needs to be researched. We need to go back and do our homework again to decide whether it is an appropriate ordinance and exactly what goal we're trying to achieve. And it should be written in a more direct, understandable language that a code enforcement person can enforce. So that's my recommendation. Go back to base one and do our homework and decide the pros and cons of the environmental issues. It was written back at the time when the county waste-to-energy incinerator was being built, and there was a lot of opposition to that facility. And one of the thinkings was that if we could just if we could just compost all our garbage, that would somehow be a better way to go. So it was written in that kind of time when that thinking was going on, and you know, a lot of towns adopted similar ordinances. Styrofoam was somehow seen as the villain, the point, but there was all types of plastic. So I'm not sure the waste-to-energy facility has turned out as nearly as hazardous as people thought it was going to be at first. So that has to be considered too. That's part of the homework we have to do.
I'd ask Mrs. Davenport. It was one of the early things she did, remember? Ms. Davenport and Ms. Bucklad worked on that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan.
I think Ms. Davenport and Ms. Bucklad worked on that back in '91.
And I was one of the ones standing in front of the incinerator, so.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you were,
Give it
well,
a minute.
I would like to hear, you know, I personally
It
would
predates
like
you,
to
doesn't
hear
it?
how successful or unsuccessful it has been. 1990.
Yeah.
Fine, it was not obviously poorly drafted.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask Ms. Larrier.
It sounds like we have another one for our agenda.
Code agenda?
Is it codes?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would love to get some sort of update from the New Jersey State DEP on what the pollution factor of the waste-to-energy facility is, and how many pounds of pollutants it's putting out.
Right. And you're looking at the total picture, the externalities of it, of the trucks coming now from New York City to dump garbage there because there's not enough garbage in New Jersey to support that incinerator.
Right.
So they have to import garbage from New York City. So you have trucks that have to come across the river. So you're talking about burning diesel fuel, emissions into the air in addition to what's coming out of the smokestack.
Yeah. That's the type of homework we need to do.
Okay, cool.
So does this go to code? Because I'm ready to offer help from environmental advisory.
I'm getting a hint that perhaps.
Go ahead.
Well, I think environmental would be better because that's where it came from.
That's fine.
And they
Okay.
probably have.
That's where it came from?
And Mr. Rowe is involved with that
Yes.
group as well.
Exactly.
He can be.
Oh, he is? He's on environmental advisory?
Right, I
Right,
think
but
we
he
need
doesn't
some
go to
help
our
from the Green Team also.
Oh, not
'cause,
that one, no.
Oh, you're talking about the
Advisory.
Environmental Advisory Committee. Yeah, let's
So
just
then
kick
we
it back
would
to them.
entertain later a recommendation from Environmental Advisory Group.
My thinking right now is maybe we need a subcommittee of the Environmental Advisory Board, whatever Green Team members have the most
Yeah,
expertise
yeah.
in this area.
I think it's all the one person that's on
Let's
both.
do our own study and review of the whole situation.
Okay.
Sounds like you're owning
I'll
this.
pull that together, yeah. No, that's...
I would be glad to work with the people. I remember when this was done, and, you know,
Okay, thank you.
Well, in the interest of time, I think I would let them that when they get together, so we can actually, only because we have had some furry hearts people sitting in the back of this room for some time now, and thank you very much for your patience, but I would like to move on, if you don't mind, with your permission, Ms. Leventhal?
No, yes.
You're
Thank
great.
you.
Any other questions for Mr. Rowe regarding his regular report?
I have one quick thing, and that's just, we're facing a time when people in affordable health care are signing up again, or
Yes.
signing up. A shorter period of time, but there was an article by the Associated Press that people should look at the options, because there can be some that are cheaper than what they're presently in. And it just struck me as, oh, I didn't even realize that. So I don't know if there's something we can get out there, or maybe...
Yes, I'd be happy to have work on that. And also, just to let you know, we have been in touch with the organization that's contracted to do the Affordable Healthcare Sign-Up group, and we'll be doing programs at the library again, and similar to what we did last winter. So that'll be forthcoming.
And just as a addition to that, for the record, open enrollment actually begins November 15th for ACA. Any other questions, Mr. Brownlee, Mr. Ryan? Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Next, we have, I believe everyone received the latest update to the trap, neuter, and release ordinance, as well as the Furry Hearts, the latest draft of the manual, yes?
Yes.
I know that there were some questions initially that were sent to me specifically by Mr. Brownlee regarding the ordinance. So if I could have the Furry Hearts representatives come, because there are those questions that do need to be answered. We are going to discuss this and then hopefully have it on for introduction at our next meeting. Am I correct in that timing? I hope so too. I refuse to go longer than the chickens.
Why don't you stand by the microphone?
Longer than the chickens already?
Don't get your feathers ruffled over this.
Why don't we have the mayor?
Put it at the table?
That's fine.
It's okay, I've been sitting.
They're fine.
Okay.
They're tough. They're cat people, they're tough.
They've been sitting for a little while. Mr. Brownlee, why don't I start? First of all, thank you, ladies, for your patience and also for all the work that you've done on this. I do know that there were some questions. I think I forwarded some of those questions to you, but I will have, just for the record, Mr. Brownlee say them
questions
out loud.
I was letting you finish your.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, actually, the questions are probably more internal, as I think about it. I'm not sure whether or not they would be the ones answering the questions, but I'll read them anyway. One of the clauses in the ordinance says that the pilot program will be under review annually for 3 years. The review will determine annually if the program needs to be amended, made permanent, or ended. And it was my suggestion that as part of that review, that there should be some quantitative measure, given that the purpose of the program is to reduce the number of feral cats. That obviously should be a component of that review. I also think that the measurement should be done by someone other than someone in the Furry Hearts group, just to eliminate possible conflict of interest. We would presumably need to get some sort of a baseline measurement before the program begins in order to be able to calculate the change as a component of that review. And so my question was whether or not that will be done by Bob Rowe's department, and are they willing to do so? So that was the first question.
Well, I can answer that. I certainly have data going back quite a few years that we've gotten from our animal control reports on the number of stray cats we picked up. I could go back maybe 5 years and come up with an average. 2014 will be an outlier year because the JIC shelter is closed and the data for this year would be skewed. But the previous years we could use as a baseline, and we certainly have all the costs that we incurred for veterinary fees and other related animal control costs. So that's something that I can pull out and get a baseline average on that.
Okay, just one question. I'm not sure if I understand just hearing you say that, the point you're making about the average and baseline. If one component of the review is to reduce the number, then the number is whatever the number is now. And then we'd be measuring how many are reduced during the course of the program. So I don't know, when you're saying you're going back 5 years, I mean, those numbers are almost irrelevant. It's what are the numbers now, and then at the conclusion of whatever period of time we're reviewing it, how many are there then? And then the difference between the two is how many it was reduced as a result of the program. So I'm not sure what the 5 years back, I mean, it's almost irrelevant. It's what are the numbers now? There are X number of stray feral cats.
Mr. Ryan.
Or maybe where we're going with this is whatever that number is. Whatever it is
now.
What would a success? How would we measure success if we knew the number now was X? What would success be?
That's the second question, but
Right.
yeah.
What would success be?
Yeah. That's sort of the logical outcome of sort of the next thing is, okay, if there are, pick a number, 500 500 feral cats now.
Second, I think that just one thing that I think.
I think you got to come close.
Yes.
Mike.
Sorry.
Yes.
Hi.
I just need your name.
Yep, Laura Himmeline, and my address, right? Yes, 77 Broadview Avenue. I know this is just to touch on one aspect of it too. I think that, we'll also be a part of obviously collecting information because we're going to be going out and finding documenting these communities and the feral cat colonies. But I also think that if it's a year thing, that the first sign of success is seeing not numbers decrease, but numbers not increase, especially within a year's time, because what we're doing is going out to prevent them from having and procreating and having more cats. Then the cats will live out their lives. So maybe a few obviously will not make it through the year just due to age, et cetera, and other things, but I think the initial is going to be seeing no more increases and having these colonies first get stable. So that's just to make.
I think my recollection when this question came up once before was that it wasn't realistic to see that type of change within the first year. And I think my suggestion would be, yes, we look at it annually to see if it's working operationally, if the way it's operating is working, nobody's getting bitten, cats are colonizing or whatever the operations of the program is. I think it would be 2 or 3 years before we got to see some significant changes in numbers. And yet this is a 3-year pilot program, and after 3 years, unless something happens badly operationally, after 3 years, then I would be interested in looking at those numbers to see if we have seen any real progress. Mr. Brownlee.
Yep. Point taken. And if that's the case, and I have no objection to that, then we should codify that, because right now it just says it's going to be reviewed annually.
Okay.
So if operationally we're going to be reviewing them annually, and at the end of 3 years, that's when we check the numbers, then we should put it in as such. But again, I was still, based on the way it was written, trying to get to forgetting the question for the moment of what constitutes success. I was just trying to make sure that logistically, we get to what is the baseline, and my question was whether or not we would be able to get a baseline number for how many there are now, so that at the end of whatever period of time we're talking about, we then can take another measurement, and then Mr. Ryan's question of what constitutes success can be ascertained. So the first question was, can we do a baseline measurement now? And again, with all due respect for your offering to do that, I think it should be an independently done measurement, and that's why I asked whether or not Mr. Rowe's department would be willing to do that, or some other department.
Ms. Leventhal?
Seems to me that the issue for us and for the cats is that being in a colony is a better life, as opposed to being truly feral. Mr. Rowe does, as he said, have numbers from feral cats, about feral cats from the past few years. If he were going forward to have to deal with feral cats, we would have a baseline if he averaged 5 years, and we would then have our data going forward to say, well, they're in colonies, so the numbers hopefully are decreasing in terms of how feral, how much we have in the mayor's backyard. Am I understanding what you were talking about, Mr. Rowe?
How about, they're going to be setting up these colonies or people to take care of them. Why can't our animal control officer go out to the colonies and count the cats?
Yeah, it's
got a baseline.
It's a straightforward question. How many are there now?
Yeah.
Whoever does it, I'm asking is Mr. Rowe or Animal Control.
Done.
Somebody go out and count the cats.
Yes?
Yes, that's one part of it, absolutely.
So count the cats now.
We go.
That's basically, that's what I have down here.
That's the
a
first
baseline
question is,
measurement.
who's going to count the cats now to establish the baseline?
The animal control officer.
Okay. All right. I asked hypothetically, Mr. Rowe. Okay.
So just to be clear, when this comes back to us, it should include that we are codifying the review of your operations. This is not so much for you, this is for Mr. Rowe. That we're codifying the review of the operations annually and the numbers after 3 years, with a baseline being taken at the beginning, and that will be on us. Just so we're clear.
The way maybe we have a little different vision of how this is going to work. I see Furry Hearts as a volunteer group, and they'll work with other volunteer caretakers, and maybe the first year they'll establish 5 to 10 feral cat colonies. That's just what I'm imagining could happen. And in each of those colonies, there might be 10 in one, maybe 20 in another, although it seems like a big number, maybe 5 in another. And so, but that's not all the stray cats in town. So, I don't think we know how many stray feral cats there are in town. Nobody knows that. But what we will know is how many we're starting out with. And then if the program grows, then we'll know that number. So it's not going to totally solve the stray cat problem, because there's still going to be people who feed cats who are not part of the program. And those people will be acting in violation of the law and will take appropriate action as needed under, you can't feed stray cats unless you're part of the program. Why I was saying going back 5 years, I think one of the measures of success would be we've brought an awful lot of cats to the animal shelter over the past years. And in fact, that was one of their problems of overcrowding. They had too many cats. And so that's why in some years it would be more, some years it would be less. So that's why I was thinking one number, and it isn't the whole problem. I don't think one number is going to be the baseline. It's going to be several data points. And one of the data points is how many stray cats are we taking to the shelter. We have data from how many we took to the JAC shelter, and in the future we'll have data on probably how many we take to the Humane Society shelter, or whatever the successor to the JAC, if that occurs. So that's one data point. And another data point is how many dead cats we pick up. We pick up tremendous number of dead cats every year, 70 to 90 cats. To me, that's an alarming number. So if that number goes down, we'll know that we're reducing the number of having a measure of success. So I don't think there's one data point that covers everything. We have to look at several of them, and the ones that I can find a way to measure with some accuracy, I will use that.
Mr. Brownlee.
I appreciate you coming with additional data points. That's certainly fine. And also, your point is also well taken in terms of the not every colony is necessarily going to have a caretaker in year one. So that's fine. Count the number of cats in the colonies that are, we need to come up with some sort of number. If we want to have 5 other numbers, that's fine. I'm just trying to get the one simple number to start off with. The overall objective of the program is to reduce the number of feral cats. So how many cats are there now? How many of the cats are at the end? Then there's a difference. I'm just going back to the basic objective of the program.
Ms. Leventhal.
I wonder if one of the problems in trying to figure this out is the definition of feral cat. A feral cat in a colony is not a problem. A feral cat that has to be taken to a shelter causes work, financial burden, and other kinds of difficulties for the township. So it's that very feral cat rather than the feral cat that's in a colony that we need to focus on. The colony cats will increase over time. They're going to be coming from Union and New Brunswick and all over once they know that they got good eats up here.
Again, let's hope not. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's a big disagreement here. I think there's a lot of numbers that are going to be provided, and I think that's good. I think what I heard Mr. Brownlee say is that there needs to be a count of the ones in the colonies as the baseline.
Whatever it is that we're saying,
that's what it sounds
it's
like.
going to reduce the number of feral cats. So
That's what it
whatever,
sounds like.
what is the
Right.
number? Define it as you wish.
But, and I think that's what we need. We need to, if we have 10 participants and that's 100 cats, then we know that's the baseline for 2014, right?
Right now.
And then that becomes the baseline. There may be other data that you provide on the number of cats you pick up that are dead, the number of cats we bring over to the humane, whatever. That's additional information. But I think for this program, what I heard is that we come up with a number, whatever that number is, and that the best way to do that is once someone signs up for a colony, we send someone from your department and that the animal control is in your department to go over and count it. And then in whatever the measures, whatever the periodic measurements are, if it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, we work off of that basis of what they found in this year when we start the program.
That's correct. And
right,
if
so
the
I don't think
program-
there's a lot of disagreement. I think you're just talking about a lot of different numbers, but I think what you're zeroing in on is come up with this is a colony program, let's measure the ones in the colony. The other information may be helpful, see the bigger picture, but let's focus in on the colonies.
Right. And part of the ordinance is that the sponsor organization, which I'm assuming will be Furry Hearts, will have to report to the health department monthly how many cats,
right.
How is it going, and we'll also be doing some checking ourselves with our animal control officer and myself to see that the program is indeed progressing as we envision it to progress.
Keeping in mind that the baseline will not be determined by Furry Hearts, they would be determined by you.
Okay, we'll go
By our
out,
department.
if we need to go out and, every time there's a new colony, we'll go out and count the cats.
Right.
We can do that.
And similarly, the last number as well.
And the last number, yes.
Right.
Mr. Brownlee.
Okay. The other, one of the other items cited is, the benefit cited in the operations manual is lower animal control costs. So since this is another stated objective and a quantitative measure, we should establish a baseline and should be this should be included in the review as well. If we're saying that one of the benefits is lower animal control costs, then we need to somehow assign a baseline number, I don't know what to do there, and then take the equivalent measurement at the conclusion of the program to prove that this benefit, which is stated as a benefit of the program, in fact was realized.
Well, that may be the easiest baseline number to find, because we have our financial records on how much money we have spent on veterinary care for stray cats. So I can just add that up. I know you said didn't like the number 5 years, but I kind of like it because it gives us an average. Because some years it's more, some years it's less. So I think it gives us a reasonable average to use as a baseline.
Okay. Continue.
Sounds to me as like we're looking for a bunch of categories.
Ha, 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 I'm not done.
I can't believe you went there.
All right.
You're just sorry that he beat you?
Yes. Okay.
So, Mr. Rowe,
I'm not done.
do you understand what we're looking for?
I'm not done.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Brownlee.
Okay, I'm sorry. One of the other clauses says is once registered, the clerk will provide a sticker designating the caretaker as registered. The sticker is to be displayed prominently so that township employees will be able to recognize the caretaker as registered with the township. And my question, again, I'm into logistics. Is there any kind of required relationship, on just like maximum distance or something like that, between where the caretaker lives and where the colony that they're taking care of is? So for example, if I live here, I'm taking care of a cat colony over there, having a sticker on my house is not going to help a township employee know that this person who's feeding cats is good or not, or whatever the case might be. So I'm trying to understand logistically what the sticker is on the house, but the colony's over there. Can you clear that up for me?
I had one thought on the matter. I think the sticker should go on the house where the colony exists. So if it's not the caretaker's own property, if it's a friend's property, then the sticker would go on the house where the colony exists. That's my sense of it.
Okay. And lastly, I actually noted that the ordinance, and I thought of this later on, actually prohibits colonies from being on township property and closer than a certain distance to a school. And my question was, does the establishment of this program preclude a resident that is not participating in the program from calling the animal control office and asking to have one or more stray cats on their property from being removed? So, for example, if I have a resident has young children and don't want them to come in contact with a wild animal, be it a cat, a dog, a possum, a raccoon, or whatever, I guess in theory that cat could still be in a colony or something like that, but it seems like it's sort of flipped the onus, if you would, to first of all, does it preclude someone from calling and doing that? And if it does, even if it doesn't, it seems like maybe the onus is kind of flipped a little bit. Thoughts?
I think you've hit on one of the points of the ordinance, which I think we've all recognized right from the beginning. If I live at one house and my next door neighbor is a caretaker for a feral cat colony, am I going to be happy about that? And probably the answer is no. But the Furry Hearts people have assured us, and I remains to be seen because I want to see it too, that if they trap and spay and neuter the cats, they'll be less likely to roam as far. If they're feeding the cats at a certain location, they'll be less likely to roam. And we also have, they're going to have wood chips or sand, so the cats hopefully will be using that instead of defecating on the neighbor's property. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we're going to find that out in the review. If it's a stray cat that's not part of the feral cat colony, then certainly we could remove that cat.
Two questions. One, understanding that point, and maybe I'm just trying to understand it then, there's the clause that a feral cat colony cannot be located within a certain distance of a school.
Yes.
Why? If what you're saying is true.
I think child care centers present a special
What if I'm a resident who has a child?
That goes back to the whole original point of the ordinance is.
No, I'm
that-
saying, but
that-
it seems
that
like those
is-
two
that is kind
circumstances
of-
are equivalent, and I guess that's why I'm trying to understand the distinction.
You're right. A family with a small child is just as likely to have the child get sick from contaminated cat feces as a child at a daycare center. But
there's a greater possibility because you have a concentration of children in a child care center, right?
That was my
So
thinking.
I think that there's a scale here that may tip it to have the prohibition of being close to a child care center. But I would assume if my neighbor has a colony and cats are hanging out in my yard and I called animal control, they're still going to come and check out what's going on. And if the cat is in the colony, they may be bringing the cat back to the colony, you know?
Right. Right.
And if the
we
cat
get
is
to-
not in the colony, they're going to take the cat away.
And also, we'll be making note of that because
Right.
if the cats in the colonies create nuisances for the neighbors, that will be part of our review at the end of the year. And if we get lots of complaints from neighbors, well, that's going to figure in whether we continue the program or not.
I would like
Let
to,
me ask the direct. I think I asked the direct question in the beginning, and you kind of started to ask the question, but I'm not sure I still got the answer because I started hearing different things. So, if there's a colony on the adjacent property, and the cats, they roam within whatever range they happen to do, and there's a cat in my yard, using it hypothetically, and I call animal control and I say remove this cat because the cat is underneath my deck or something like that, will they come and remove the cat?
Okay, I'd like to give a short answer to that, but I'm going to have to give a long
The answer is yes or no.
my hope would be, Mr. Brownlee,
They're not going to remove it, right?
my hope would be,
Why? Well, the fact is the answer is yes or no.
I can answer yes or no because there's a lot of factors that might contribute to whether the animal control officer can remove the cat or not. If we can catch it, first of all, can we catch it? Cats are fairly hard to catch. Second of all, we have to have a place to take it, which we have.
Okay,
now.
let me ask the question differently then. You're going to try to dance around it a little bit. Does the answer to your question change at all by the presence of a colony participating in the program? I understand all those other mitigating factors, those are
Right.
in both cases. Does the answer at all change by virtue of the fact that there's a cat colony in this program?
It's next door. If the cats in the feral cat colony are repeatedly in somebody's neighbor's yard creating a nuisance, I don't think we're going to remove them, at least not initially, but we will be making note of it, and it will become a factor if we consider to continue the program or not. Murray Hartz and the animal feral cat people have told us it will reduce the number of nuisances. We get calls almost every day about cats, and I wish we could catch them all and find them a good home, but we just don't have that resource right now to do that.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, and you can correct me if I'm paraphrasing you incorrectly, if today I called because there were cats in my property,
right,
you might take it, but after the establishment of this program, if there is a colony, then you might not take it.
If the cat will know whether it's in the colony because the ear is tipped. So if it's a That's how the animal control officer will know whether the cat is part of the colony. If it's not part of the colony and she can catch it, we will remove it.
If it is a part of the colony, is there anything that would preclude you from trapping that cat and returning it to the colony? Returning it to the neighbor's yard, to his neighbor's yard, to my yard if I'm
Well,
his neighbor.
presumably it's just next door, so.
Right.
Yeah. No, nothing would preclude us from doing that, no.
I'm not following the returning it to the colony bit. I mean, the
Bring it
cat.
back. Well, I guess my concern here is, I think part of what we're doing by having this 3-year pilot that's being reviewed annually is working through some of this. Maybe I'm wrong in assuming that. But it seems to me that if you have a pilot program that's going to run for 3 years with annual reviews, the whole point is to make sure it works and to make sure that if there are some bugs, which respectfully, Mr. Brownlee, you have found several, we can work them out. And I don't know that that would preclude us from going over, from starting the pilot. Mr. Brownlee.
Point taken, but I would also not want, if the overall objective of the program is to do something, then I would not want to start the pilot, which is something that's going to be evaluated at some point, without having the criteria by which you would evaluate that pilot at least preliminarily defined. And so, understanding your point that there's some logistical things that might need to be worked out along the way, but it seems to me if the fundamental purpose of the pilot is to do something, then clearly we should have the criteria for success of the pilot program defined at least for those couple of things.
Well, I believe we have done that in saying we're going to have a baseline, we're going to codify how to get the numbers, and we're going to have a baseline for costs and how many costs. As far as if there's a cat in my yard, if there's a cat on my deck, or if there's a cat under my steps, I think those are the types of things that we need to work out over the course of the 3 years.
One last question,
Mr. Brownlee.
which is actually Mr. Ryan's question.
I think that you've sort of discussed it in.
I'm not sure I heard an answer to the, I'm going to speak on your behalf here now. I'm not sure I heard an answer to the question of, my question was, who's going to do the baseline? Who's going to do the final measurement?
Well, I got that
And then the fundamental, the purpose of the program is to reduce the number of feral cats. So what constitutes success? If there are, and there's going to be, let's say, 5 colonies, and there's a total of 70 cats. Okay, so that's the baseline. And in 3 years, we measure those same colonies, and there's 65 cats. Is that a success?
Well,
You know, what defines success
What I heard from the woman who's standing right behind.
on this criteria?
What I heard you say was that the goal is not necessarily to reduce as much as it is to not increase. Just step up to the mic.
Yes, initially, yes, just because of time and, you know, the life cycle of a cat. Over time, yes, it's to decrease.
Well, yeah, that's the purpose of.
But initially, yes, we're going to see not an increase, because if we say we have 10 colonies with 10 cats that up to this point have not been neutered.
No,
Well,
no.
they'll
At some
have-
point, again, the purpose of the program is to reduce the number of feral cats. That's why we're doing this program.
Right, I'm just saying.
So at some point, we need to
Yes.
measure how many there are, and then at some point, we need to measure the number of at some conclusion.
I agree with you. I was just saying at first when I said that, it was because it was a year's time, and I was saying in a year's time, I don't think we'll see a decrease.
And
that's all.
we've
Right.
already addressed that. So we're going to say 3 years. Okay. So again, my question is, okay, we've addressed who's doing the baseline. We've got a period at the end, another measurement, and now what constitutes success? That's my last question.
I would actually throw that to the Furry Hearts people. What would you, just, not that you get to make that decision, but just what would be your suggestion?
Is it that the number of cats is reduced by 10%, 30%, 2%, 80%? I don't know, pick a number. In 3 years,
Can I ask it a little different way?
I mean, that's the purpose of the program.
You're proposing to us that we adopt a trap, neuter, release program.
To reduce the number of feral cats.
No, let's not. I don't want to go there. So you've proposed to us a trap, neuter, release program. What was the basis of that recommendation? Why did you think that we ought to do that?
Why do we think that you were
Yeah. Why do you think we should do that?
Well, I think it started out originally because of the fact the monies that the town spends on the trying to manage all of these cats that were sort of putting a small Band-Aid over, but we're not taking the initial problem, which is actually minimizing their procreation ability, making them also now not sick through vaccinations. It's
Just on those, you've mentioned three things. One is cost, one is procreation, one is disease.
Right. And
so those are three things that could be identified as items to measure.
Sure.
Okay? What other reasons did you ask us to do this?
Well, again, so that we can control this in a humane manner, and one that we will hopefully, and the object is to minimize. I mean, most certainly, I come in from that. I'm an animal lover, but I'm also one that doesn't want to sit by with neighbors that are irresponsibly taking care of cats. When they are taken care of and noticing how, wow, they're not screeching outside. Wow, they're not peeing all over the place. Wow, I'm not seeing little babies that are now going to eventually get sick, might not make it through the winter, now be in this existence. I see this as not just an economic, humane, and then again, decreasing, absolutely.
Okay, so you've mentioned about 5 things that are expectations of success, right?
Yeah,
and that can be measured. I mean, I'm not
Certainly.
sure how we...
I don't know
think-
how we put an actual, I mean, yes, it's going to need numbers, obviously, and that's where I think over time, what the exact percentage is, I wouldn't want to stay right off the cuff right now. That would be something that we would have to discuss, and kind of through also working with other organizations that have done this to see what that kind of success.
But it sounds like all the things that you mentioned as the goals and or successes of what you would hope to achieve through
Absolutely.
this are somewhat measurable as long as we're clear about how to do the metrics, who's going to do the measuring.
Right.
We have some data, we have to produce other data, and we have to monitor it over a 3-year period.
Right.
And this is we're talking about 36 months. So at the end of 8 months or 12 months or even 18 months, we may not see anything, and it may be one of those things that shifts between the 25th month and the 36th month.
Right.
Entirely possible.
And like I said, ultimately, it would be wonderful to not have any stray or feral cats in our town, because it's not the life. And the fact of the matter is, the reason why we can't suggest going, oh, well, let's just round them up and find them nice homes, because they haven't been. While they might have a feeder, they've missed the opportunity to be a house cat. So now their life is outside.
And we do know one thing, that we're having no success in doing what we're doing right now.
Doing nothing is not.
Continuing to do what we do now is not successful. So this is an alternative that hopes that there will be some success based along the lines of the objectives you sort of laid out here.
Right, and the burden, I mean, this is his operation, being able to try to do and manage it's too much of a task. So the fact that, we were able to organize, I think, is, an asset for our community.
So let me ask Mr. Brownlee, do you see some of the things that she laid out, do you see them as being able to be measured, as long as we have some agreement on who's going to do it, what are the baselines and how to measure it?
Yeah, again, that's all I've really been trying to get to is how we're going to measure it. I'm going to read the very first statement here just to make sure that we're clear on why I'm asking the question. This is from the manual that you created, and this is the very first line. It says, our mission is to humanely reduce the homeless cat population by sterilizing as many cats as possible. So the mission is to reduce the homeless cat population. So we're going to do a pilot program to see whether or not this works. So if the mission is to reduce the homeless cat population, then how many cats are there now? How many cats are there at the end of the period of time, whatever it is, and then what constitutes success?
And we have that. We know
Fairly
that's going to be
straightforward.
36 months, 3 years.
At the end of 3 years.
And that, you know, I think what you read here is clearly something we can measure.
I think Mr. Brownlee is looking for a specific quantitative number that I don't believe we are, and they are capable of giving you right now.
And you know what? That may very well be the case. It may be that we count the number of cats and it's 70, and as long as it's 69, we deem it a success.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I'm fine with
that may
that.
be.
Let's go.
I'll
Go,
go.
then let's go.
I'll go you
As long
one.
as it's
I'll go you one
69,
better.
Huh?
I'll go you one better. Clearly, what we're doing right now doesn't work.
Right.
Let them try this for a couple of years and then come back and justify why it was a good idea.
If I'm going to approve a pilot, I'm going to approve a pilot to approve it, not to just do it.
Yeah, I don't think that, I think there are ways to measure what Mr. Brownlee's asking for.
Right.
And I think
Right.
we ought to make sure that that happens.
And
I
that
don't
it
think
makes
there's
it
anything
into the
inconsistent.
ordinance? That those things make it into the ordinance, Mr. Rowe, yes? You know what we're talking about? Those,
You want
yes. Thank you.
But the numbers are not going to be in the ordinance.
The numbers are
No,
not going to be
just
in
the
the ordinance,
process.
just the process. Just that we're doing it and who is doing it. That's all that's going to be in the ordinance, and then that can come back, and then my hope is that we can have it on for introduction at our next meeting.
The only part I would want to at least be codified is the fact that you mentioned the difference between the logistical thing being annual and the baseline thing being at the end of the whole program. You don't have to put the numbers in the ordinance,
Right.
to the mayor's point, but the fact that there's a different interval of time
Right.
for evaluating the
We're evaluating your operation.
annually, and then the
Annually,
other stuff at the
and
end of the
yes.
program.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've heard nothing that says we shouldn't move forward.
Right.
Right.
We're doing that.
So we're going to do that, and Mr. Rowe and I guess Mr. Desiderio will bring this back to us for next time.
We introduce it. They're
Thank
not
you.
bringing it back.
You're welcome. Thank
We're
you.
gonna
Thank you
introduce
for coming
it.
out.
I mean,
They're not
but
bringing
wait.
it back for a draft. It's on for introduction
It's
next
on
meeting.
for introduction next month,
Yes.
with those changes.
Yes,
Yes. Thank you.
yes.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
This is the time for public comment to the Board of Health. Is there anyone who
We
would
haven't had
like
enough. Go ahead.
to address the Board of Health? Seeing no one, I will entertain.
I
a
move we
motion to
adjourn.
Second.
Third. Thank you, Mr. Rowe and Furry Hearts.
Are you calling the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Brownlee?
I don't know, I'm having so much fun. Maybe we should just make it a little longer.
You adjourn.
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes, please.
Mrs. Larry?
Please.
Okay, thank you. We're back to the regular agenda. We have item number 11, introduction of a new ordinance.
Item 11, Mayor, introduction of new ordinance. Ordinance number 2760-14. It's an ordinance to prohibit the repair of motor vehicles within the public right-of-way. This ordinance will prohibit the repair of motor vehicles within the public right-of-way except in emergent situations.
Ms. Larrier?
Ms. Larrier. Mr. Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on
October 21st.
October 21st.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
One question. Your point about this not covering private property, but I think at the last meeting, someone indicated that that will be handled as part of the approvals for the whatever, so that aspect is going to be covered by, I had a resident ask me that question,
Yes.
and they seemed to feel that maybe it was, well, they thought it was us, and we thought it was them, and I just wanted to be clear that that aspect will be covered by, was it planning and engineering or?
Planning board.
Planning board.
It's my understanding it's already done.
Yes.
It hasn't been
Hasn't been
memorialized yet, but
memorialized
yes.
yet. But there's a resolution that will be adopted by the planning board that makes it clear that you cannot do repairs in the parking lot, and that will become part of the zoning approval.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We have 5 discussion items. Mr. Manning, the first one, loading zone for a village post office.
Yes, the township has been approached by the officials from the Maplewood Village Post Office requesting a loading zone in front of their facility, and it would be for the hours of 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. 9 to 10 a.m. and 6 to 7 p.m. And this way they could have their mail delivered in the morning, which will be then sent out to the customers and picked up at the end of the day and brought back to the processing facility. I've sent you a map of what it would look like, and for the 2 various types of trucks that they have, and I just think it would be a good idea to give them this so that they could move forward.
So we're looking today to have an indication of support from the Township Committee so that we can inform the post office that we're agreeable to making this happen. Correct?
Yes, because you will have to do an ordinance.
Right. Mr. Ryan?
Just one question. I know that this came from the engineer's office, so clearly it has the engineer's approval. Have the police looked at it? Do the police have any, police or the fire department have any issues? I mean, I'm in favor.
The police haven't, looked at it.
What makes me think of this is that
them,
every time there's a zoning discussion or site plan discussion, the police department reviews it, the fire department reviews it to make sure that none of their access is going to be blocked. I think they should just review it, and subject to that, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you make a motion subject to consultation with the police and fire
Subject to review and
department.
approval by the police and fire department, I move that we adopt your recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Brownlee?
Well, Ms. Larrier. She asked first.
Larrier.
Yes. I'm not exactly sure if I can say this, but someone asked me also with regard to the post office if there would be handicap parking there also. So I don't know if that's something we want to consider as well.
I think we have to take a look at that entire strip there, and we can certainly ask the engineer to take a look at it. We are talking about creating 20-minute parking, but I don't know if there's a handicap spot along that strip. There's not, right?
There is not.
No.
So we will have to consider not only the 20-minute designation, but also handicap parking. But that's not, this is what they need to move forward with their committee to get total approval to start the work.
So we can address that and take a look at that. I know there's some handicap parking in the parking lot, but that's
that'll
at
be
the
taken.
at the current post office. There's a few parking spaces that are within walking distance, so we're going to have to make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Mr. Brownlee.
Remind, what were the times again?
From 9 to 10 a.m. and from 6 to 7 p.m. And all other time it will be usable by
Okay,
them.
I think that bookends the times they're actually open. They open at 10, I think?
Right, so they're getting
10
their
to
mail
7.
delivered in the
7?
morning.
Oh, so the last hour is overlaps, but if that's what they want, okay.
Please call the roll.
Brownlee?
Yes.
Ms. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. The Maplewood Diner, we gave an order, or we instructed the building official to take a look at that and assess whether or not we should order the demolition of that building. He did order the demolition of that building. We discussed it. There is a contract purchaser who I will not make public, but the contract purchaser met with the Economic Development Committee and laid out his plans for that facility if he takes possession of it. The possession is contingent on removing the demolition. the first order of business is he will deal with the external look of the building to bring it back to code. He has indicated to us, both he as the contract purchaser and the owner of the property, Mr. Duonis, has indicated to us that the inside of the diner is still intact and can be used. It was not affected by the fire. It is the contract purchaser's desire to open the facility as a diner. He would not run it, but he would find someone to run it. If not, he's interested in working with the township in recruiting another food business there. And I think with what we're doing there, with the development of the PSE&G project, this would be a real positive. So the Economic Development Committee is recommending to the Township Committee that we rescind the demolition order for this facility. Want to make that motion?
I make the motion that we rescind the order to have that facility torn down.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. Next up is 44th Street. As part of our Jacoby Street initiative, we've been working with the residents there to do some traffic calming. One suggestion that when Mr. Brownlee and I met with the chief of police and some of the residents, and it was discussed about making 44th Street a one-way. It is the chief and the engineer's recommendation that that one-way go east to west from Chancellor to Jacoby. We presented this at 2 community meetings that were held at the business there on Chancellor and 44th Street. And I then subsequently spoke with other residents there. There are 19 residents there, homes, condos, apartments, and I spoke to 16 of them, either by phone, by email, or in person, and 15 of them indicated yes, that they want to see it one way. One indicated he did not want to see it one way. 13 indicated their support to have the one-way go from Chancellor to Jacoby, and 2 suggested it go the other way towards Chancellor. One was concerned about the wide and fast turns off of Chancellor. We discussed that this morning, and the engineer's going to take a look at that. Again, where you would like to get a motion to have a 60-day pilot as a one-way east to west, and it would start on November 1st and go through the end of the year, and there would be sufficient warning between this date and November 1st that we're going to make that traffic change. There's already been signs ordered, one-way signs, so we'll be ready to move forward on this. Yes?
If we were concerned enough about the fast turns off of Chancellor, we're concerned enough to have the engineer look at it, are we premature in going ahead and doing this?
I don't think so. I think this is something that the neighbors want.
As opposed to just making sure it shouldn't go the other way? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Brownlee, would you like to make that motion? You've been involved in this?
Yes, I would move that we, let's see how the official way to say this, institute a pilot program to make 44th Street one-way from Chancellor to Jacoby for a period of 60 days to be evaluated by the township engineer.
There a second?
Second.
And just on that evaluation, he indicated this morning that at the end of 30 days, he would have the police do another analysis. Right now, we know that both the level of traffic and the speed of traffic, so we'll be able to compare that to what we come up with. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mayor,
Next,
I'm
yes.
sorry, the evaluation is by the police and the engineering department, or?
Yes.
Okay.
coordinated by the engineering department. Next up is a resolution that we have on the consent agenda, Resolution 195-14. And essentially what is happening is that we are authorizing a redeveloper for the PSE&G site for 90 days, and that entity is Maplewood Urban Renewal, LLC, which is an affiliate of Avalon Bay Communities. Avalon Bay Communities is a national company. They are located on the northeastern part of the United States from, I think, Arlington, Virginia, up through New England, and also on the Pacific Northwest. In New Jersey, their facilities that they've built are in Woodridge, Somerset, North Bergen, Tinton Falls, Florham Park, Lyndhurst. They are right now doing work in Bloomfield at the train station. Avalon Bay is a major company. I think it's a real plus to have them involved. And what we're asking for is an authorization to designate Avalon Bay as the, or through the, I'm sorry, their redevelopment agency authority, the Maplewood Urban Renewal LLC, their affiliate rather, as the developer for PSE&G redevelopment. That will mean Park Place will no longer be the developer for that site. You want to have anything to add, or you're okay with that? That sounds, we met the legal terms and everything?
No, you know, just that we did receive a letter from counsel for Avalon Bay specifically requesting it. I believe we circulated that, a letter dated October 1 from Carlton Kempf, requesting the change, and it was agreed to by the present redeveloper, Park Place.
Can we get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you very much. We have best practices. Mr. Manning?
Yes, I distributed a memo, email to you, and along with copies of the 2014 best practices inventory. Did you all get a chance to look it over? It's pretty similar to the year before. We're required by law to state that in a public meeting, that you've got it, you looked at it, and if you have any questions about it, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
I did have one thing, item number 6, which is requiring elected officials to attend on an annual basis. Are some of these courses offered at the league, and could we meet this criteria by some of the workshops? You know, we don't sign in for continuing education.
No, these are specific courses that they have that you would go and spend a Saturday or an evening. They're not the, yes.
They're not CLUs.
Yeah,
Says
and we don't,
approved for continuing
and also we don't require, even if they were.
No,
we
I
don't
understand
require
that, but if we're at the league anyway, if we're going to a meeting about ethics or something, we can get credit for that. That can be something we can codify as that when we're at the league. So I don't know if,
well,
I mean, I don't think it's a big deal because we're still
it's
meeting
one
the
point,
requirement,
yeah,
right?
Then that, if that would be the case, then it would be required by everyone who attends the league, and maybe not everyone does.
No. I know some people go there just to play, so I don't think we want.
Not from the Township of Maplewood.
No.
I just haven't heard about that at all.
I haven't been to the league in 2 years, so I don't know who you're coughing at.
See, and that's the other problem.
I'm just looking in the mirror.
All right, so.
Everyone okay with
Do you
this?
need a vote?
We have to certify that we're submitting this,
No,
right?
the clerk certifies that.
That we discussed
you
it.
have Discussed it. Right.
Okay,
That's
we discussed it.
Okay.
Thank you. Consent agenda, can we get a motion?
So moved.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Second.
When do I, great, now you say discussion, I guess?
Discussion.
Great. I have to abstain from the,
Okay. Anything else? Let's call the roll, recognizing that Mrs. Larrier will abstain from the minutes.
Sure. Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
yes, abstaining from the minutes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. We just should note that we appointed 3 probationary police officers tonight, and I believe that brings us up to our full complement.
63.
Correct? And plus the 2 new hires. I think this brings us up the whole thing.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
do the math
But you can,
tomorrow.
yeah. You don't have to do it right now, but
No.
yes. Okay. Public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Seeing no one, we will close that. We've received Construction Code Official Report for August 2014. Administrative reports. Mr. Manning.
Just to remind people that the farmer's market is coming to a close at the end of this month, so the fall fruits and vegetables are there. Please go check us out on Mondays from 2 to 7 at the Indiana Street parking lot, corner of Springfield Avenue and Indiana. So please try to make it out there. That's it.
Anything else?
Any questions?
Okay. Mr. Desiderio. Mr. Desiderio.
I have 3 items, Mayor. The first is on the affordable housing program. There is an applicant for participation in the program, and under the guidelines, if there is money due either for taxes, any monies due to the township for municipal services, that is an impediment to being admitted into the program. This particular resident presently has a balance for unpaid sewer of $309.23. Our administrator of the program, Community Grants and Planning, has brought this to our attention and basically is suggesting that you waive that requirement and allow this person to move forward into the program. So I'm just giving you that information.
Anybody have a problem with that? $306? Okay.
Okay. The second thing is that Community Grants and Planning sent me an email indicating that, well, let me go back. In January, it was an estimated $29,890 for general administration if the number of, I'm sorry, the scope of the work on our professional service proposal for housing rehabilitation services was estimated at $29,000. It is acknowledged that in a resolution that funds may exceed $17,500. Based on a professional services proposal, the 3 cases already completed this year carried over from the previous year. The current 3 active cases, the monthly program and administration needs, and the financial additional cases, had terminated for various reasons. They need more money, is what I'm trying to say. They need another $15,000 to carry the program through the end of the year. They are the ones who administer the program, who do the interviews, who make sure review the estimates for the work to be done, etc. So they have asked for additional monies. I did check with Mr. Manning, and no, I did not. I wanted to ask you if money was available. That was what I was asking you. I thought you told me that we would be able to find this money. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. That's not my intention.
I don't know exactly how much money it was. $15,000.
But the money comes out of the trust fund.
Yeah, right. But
we have money in the housing trust fund.
If we have money in the, yes, $15,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my experience with them is that they're quite responsive, they're quite professional, they administer the program very well. I mean, I'm not watching them on a dollar-for-dollar basis, but we've had them for a number of years, and I have no reason to distrust them in any way. So I would recommend that we allow this.
Okay. Are you all right with that? You need a motion, or, well, Joe, you can, Mr. Manning, you can just move the...
I'll do a resolution if there's...
Okay. Fine. Okay.
Is that okay? Is there...
Yep.
a resolution?
Everyone's shaking their head,
We'll
yes.
do it for the 21st?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and the last thing is I want to just report to you on what the mayor said early in the meeting with regard to the post office site. Myself and Annette De Palma and Julie Duran were charged with interviewing and meeting with 5 developers, Elite Properties, Langen, Sterling Properties, JMF, and Petrucci, all of whom had relationships either with the Township of Maplewood or the Township of South Orange Village with regard to moving forward. The criteria for the and they were supplied with a significant amount of information that came from the planning board submission that was presented by L&M and Wilder Bolter. There was this information is available not only to them but to the public generally. There was a Phase 1 report that was applied to us by L&M, and the criteria was that the project had to be built as is presently approved, and that means the exterior of the building, the flow-through through the back of the building, etc. We met with each of them over a period of approximately a week, and I have to say, all of them were impressive. All of them were very, very enthusiastic about the project. All of them thought that the project would be successful. We gave them, all of the information that we had, and as a result of those, we came down and narrowed the field down to 3: Sterling, JMF, and Petrucci. While they were all very competent and had been successful, we narrowed the 3 down essentially because the 3 that we picked had experience with New Jersey Transit. The site in question abuts the railroad tracks, or nearly abuts the railroad tracks, and it's going to require that the successful party deal with New Jersey Transit and satisfy New Jersey Transit in terms of the construction. All 3 of these entities had that experience, having done it, and we don't want to get tied up in a lot of red tape with transit, so we thought that having someone with experience would be useful. We now have these 3. There is a process that the mayor has explained in terms of going forward, meeting with the Village Alliance, and then a special meeting of the Township Committee to make a final recommendation. All of them gave us a feeling that the project would move forward expeditiously, the building would come down, and construction would take, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 14 months to be completed. All of them have also had experience in working in tight sites. The Rose Avenue project that JMF and Petrucci was in was a very difficult site, abutted the railroad tracks at tight space. So, all in all, I thought it was useful. I'd like to commend my 2 co-members of the committee. We worked diligently to get this thing done, and I was encouraged by the interest and quality of the 5 contractors developers who we met with. So that's my report.
So
and I would recommend, I'm sorry, and my recommendation is, and I speak on behalf of the committee, that we move forward with Sterling Properties, JMF Construction, and Petrucci Construction with regard to the post office site.
So give you a chance to ask Mr. Desiderio any questions, but what we would want out of this is a resolution moving these 3 developers to the next round, which will hopefully end on November 5th with our choosing the next developer for that site. So we would need that motion. We also should make a motion tonight to hold a special closed meeting on October 22nd, so that we have that clear too. Are there any questions from Mr. Desiderio on his report? Okay, can we get a motion to move forward the firms of JG Petrucci Company, JMF Properties, and Sterling Properties?
So moved.
Second.
Does that motion include having a special meeting?
We'll do that next. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. And now, can we get a motion to hold a special closed meeting of the Township Committee, at which we will invite some experts to join us, and Township staff?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll. This will be on October 22nd.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We'll put out a notice tomorrow that we're moving forward on this, so I'll work with
Did you have a time for that, Mayor?
7:30.
7:30.
AM, PM?
PM, sorry.
And that's the 22nd.
22nd.
2-2.
It'll be in the conference room here.
Double deuce.
Anything else, Mr. Desiderio? You had your 3. I have one thing for you. we are moving forward. Tonight, we passed a resolution on the asbestos consultant for 57 Maplewood Avenue. That's the building that was burnt there. Okay. You got the letter from the residents?
Paving?
Yes. So I'm concerned, I had asked them to send us a letter alerting us that they're going to be paving and that, you know, we're going to have a contractor back there, and what would you suggest? Well, let me ask you this. Can you work with Mr. Manning and Mr. Mittelmeyer to make sure whatever we have as far as our bid documents has some protection for us and the people there of what happens if that asphalt gets wrecked?
Well, in fairness, I have to tell you, I don't think they should do the work until after the...
They can't. They have to move forward.
Then they run the risk it's going to be damaged. And yeah, you know, I mean, the way those houses are situated, the work has to be done from the back. There's no way they can do it from the front.
Right.
And if they do it, they run the risk. I mean, I don't know what kind of equipment has to be brought back there, but it might very well be bulldozers and dumpsters to do it, and the wheels on those are not good. So it runs a real risk of, you don't think so?
No, I do, but I mean, I think we've done damage to some things before that we've repaired when we get the contractor the following year who does the road work, and we do little bitty things.
My concern is it's never of the quality of the repair.
Right.
That's my concern.
We have the same problem with
We don't
PSE&G.
want it patched. I mean, these people are obviously putting money into this to do it.
We talked to them about they're not able to delay this anymore. It's taken them 4 years to raise the money. The situation, there's some significant potholes there. They have to do the work. So we're going to have a problem. And this may be more costly because we have to alert the bidders that this is you know, they may have to be responsible for minimizing damage and repairing any damage.
There's no way that they can do this from the street, huh?
I don't think so.
I'm not the contractor. I've just driven by it. I just can't picture.
I live right behind it.
I mean, I don't picture how you could possibly demolish that
Well, plus you
house.
have to take the garage down, which is in the back there anyway.
Pardon me?
You have to take the garage down.
Yeah, it's in the back. I mean, you're talking about heavy trucks going back there.
Well, we got to have some protection on the front end because they're going to end up suing us and or repairing the driveway.
Well, it's not I mean, it's a question of just not doing damage to something. My suggestion is that I assume Mr. Malavasi is ultimately going to be responsible for coordinating this. I know he's not the one putting out the bid, but I would think engineering would ultimately be. So maybe Mr. Malavasi can talk to these people, Mr. Conley, and see what's going on and when it's going to be done, and look at the site, and maybe the equipment can be placed in a way that will minimize issues, but...
They could put something down.
Yeah, no, I mean, there may be a lot of different ways to do it. It's just that they're doing this at I think the end of August, end of October. So they're paving.
It's not. It's the back road. It has to be paved. It's the back road.
No one's disputing it has to be paved. The question is, when does it have to be paved? Okay, and that's really the issue.
I suspect it has to be paved before the winter gets rolling.
Yes.
Well, it had real bad damage last.
I mean, one of the things he's suggesting is that the contractor be required to make the Black Road Association an additional insured on its insurance policies. That doesn't offer him that doesn't give him any help. Okay. The answer is I got the letter,
Okay.
I understand, and
All right.
we'll talk about it, so.
Okay. Anything else? Ms. Fritzen?
So tomorrow evening, the freeholders will have their meeting here in our chambers, beginning at 7 o'clock. And it's held here about every 2 years. We have October 28th, the volunteer dinner, and we're getting a lot of responses back on that. Just remind you that's from 6 to 8 at the community center. We have November 11th, Veterans Day. Our Veterans Day ceremony invitations have gone out for that, and we'll be coordinating that event. And just a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, so our Township Committee meeting will be Wednesday, November 5th. And the next meeting will be on Monday, November 17th, instead of Tuesday, the 18th, due to the league.
And are you staying open on the 14th for voter registration?
Yes, we are, Mayor. We'll be open from 4:30 till 9 p.m. for voter registration. Thank you for reminding me of that. Straight through, all day, 9 to 9.
So the November meeting is on Wednesday, not Monday? Why did I?
It's Election Day is a Tuesday.
No, I know it's not Tuesday. For some reason, I wrote down Monday.
Yeah, no, but he's talking about the
meeting's-
first
no,
meeting. It's Wednesday. So the
Yeah, no, it is what
public
it is.
safety's got to change.
Wednesday,
Yeah,
Monday.
no, yeah, but I thought for some reason I had. Okay, I don't know why I wrote it down as Monday.
Anything from Ms. Fritzen?
No.
Yes. I haven't spoken to Ms. Fritzen about this, but I'd like us to agree that we can work together on the volunteer resource listing. It is time for the chairs of the different committees to work with the liaisons to review people that are on the committee and whether or not their term is up and whether or not they would request of us to reappoint them. I find the list very outdated. There are people that have moved, et cetera. I think it's worth canvassing them. And I also know that there are, it's done in Excel, and there are ways to use Excel that would be much more, it would be easier for everyone involved in the process. So I'd like to just sit with you, work out something, and get it going. That time of year, so.
And if anybody knows anyone that's moved out of Maplewood that's on that list, I mean, we only take people off if they've basically been appointed.
Well, there are people also, we'll go over it together.
Okay.
I'd like to suggest that. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, elected officials, Mrs. Larrier,
No report.
Mr. Ryan.
3 items, Mayor. This morning's Planning and Engineering Committee, we had a discussion of the construction of the Woodland Road lot. I just want to make sure that we let the public know that we've directed the engineering department to make sure that the scheduling for all of the work that's going on in the Woodland Road lot is being done so as to not interfere with the Halloween parade. And this is a very important item for a number of folks. There will not be a disruption in that area during the Halloween parade. That's good news. Second item, we had a report before this Township Committee about the Historic Preservation Commission's master plan for Memorial Park. There was some discussion here. Members of the committee raised a number of issues, and the entire report was referred to the Planning and Engineering Committee for discussion and recommendation. The Planning and Engineering Committee discussed it and realized that ultimately the report was going to have to go to the Planning Board, and we thought that there were sort of 2 possible actions to take. One was to try and incorporate all the Township Committee comments in a new version, spin that back to the Historic Preservation Commission, then back, make sure that everybody was satisfied with it, and then buck it to the Planning Board. Or take the report as it exists, attach the comments of the Township Committee that are not incorporated, and send it to the Planning Board for its review. The latter seemed a more efficient use of time and resources, so it's the recommendation of the Planning and Engineering Committee that the report, as drafted, along with the comments from the Township Committee from the public discussion that we had with Ms. Kirschon, be sent to the Planning Board for its review and discussion and potential adoption. So that's our recommendation. If anybody has any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, if everybody's okay with that, maybe one of my colleagues would move that we do that.
This discussion after, so I just have a question. So does that mean that its final adoption, that the ultimate adoption is done by the planning, or does it still come back here? Okay.
Yeah. And your comments about who's using, we talked a lot about this morning about your comments about who's using and who needs to be counted, and the whole idea of having a conservancy for all the parks and not just Memorial Park, those are going to be captured in the minutes that go along with the.
So, Mr. Brownlee, our thought was to say, you know, some folks had some fairly substantive comments, and if we incorporated those comments and then again broke open that section,
Logistically, it makes sense.
it just seemed, you know, we don't want to minimize people's comments. We just wanted to have a more efficient, the most efficient path through. That was what we were thinking.
So I do move that we
Refer it
pass
to the planning board.
To the planning board, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you.
My last item is that we on the Planning and Engineering Committee received a memorandum from Mr. Carlson, the chair of the Planning Board, regarding a series of previously discussed matters from various consultants' reports that we've had suggesting ordinance changes in the zoning code. Long list of changes in various areas. Some of them we've already begun to act on. For example, we had at our last meeting, or was it the meeting before, we had a discussion about revisions to the SID guidelines, and there are others as well. And just to get this off the dime, the Planning and Engineering Committee suggested that we appoint an ad hoc committee of myself, Mr. Malavasi, and Mr. Carlson to go through the list of changes and to come up with an action plan for zoning ordinance changes that would, of course, come here and then go to the Planning Board. I don't know if we need a vote for that, but if we do...
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Well, so in that
That's
case,
just
I'm just reporting that we decided to do that.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And that's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Leventhal?
I'd like to talk about the Maplewood Loves Wellness Fair and Week, which was very successful, again, for its third year, and thank my colleagues who were able to participate. The thing that struck us and was very nice was that we saw in the vendors and the participants a lot of diversity, whether it was the health and wellness type of presentation they made or business that they ran. It also mirrored Maplewood in race and ethnicity. People were of all ages. It really it had a good Maplewood feel, this event, which nice. We'll be back again next year.
Brownlee?
Just that I will not be having my office hours this month, so office hours will resume next month.
And if you want to come to my office hours...
Well, that's your report.
7 to 8.
That's your report.
There is a possibility they may be changed. We're working on having meetings with these developers next week, but right now it's 7 to 8 on Tuesday the 14th. I would also like to congratulate the Township Committee for winning the walking contest.
Yeah.
Mr. Carrara, did you understand that?
Carrara, that was...
Let me make it personal.
That was our
Let
discussion.
me make it very clear. I want to congratulate the Township Committee for winning the walk. A team may have had more steps than us, but they came in second.
We won.
Okay. So we had 1,073 steps.
No, 1 million.
1 million.
1 million. 1 million. 1 million steps.
Like my daily.
1,073 steps. We had 1,000 just, coming to here. So that was over a 4-week period. By far, Ms. Leventhal was the winner with 288,000.
She needs to keep doing it.
Mrs. Larrier with 274,000. Mr. DeLuca with 191,000. Mr. Ryan, 186,000, and Mr. Brownlee with 133,000. So, again, 1 million steps for the Township Committee. That puts us right there, number one.
You have to say it that. 1 million.
1 million. Actually, I think by rights we could say 1.1 million. 1.1 million.
That's clearly a winning
Anybody
score,
want to
right?
mess with us, you just tell them to give us a call.
Clearly a winning score. yes.
I received a letter from the director of the county economic development. I hope you guys know this. We received $102,000 for the improvements to the Hilton Branch Library. So it doesn't have any, I saw this. It doesn't have anything to the engineer. So here, you can have this. This is, I guess they didn't send it to anyone else. And then lastly, I want to talk about, give you an update on the Mayor's Council on the Rahway River flood mitigation. We have been attending meetings, as you know, and our whole strategy was to have an inside game by continuing to sit at the table. There was a meeting last week that Mr. Manning attended. I was unable, I was flying back. In any event, they are looking for another allocation of dollars starting in 2015 from the, I think it's a dozen towns or so, right? And what they have allocated for Maplewood is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 towns, is $5,000. Cranford is $30,000. Well, I'm sorry, we're going to do $14,000 for Cranford, $14,000 for Milburn, $5,000 for Maplewood, $14,000 for Springfield, $14,000 for Union, $5,000 for Kenilworth, and $14,000 for Rahway. So Mr. Manning and I talked about this, and we think that it's worth our ability to sit at the table and continue to play a role in this to protect the interests we have with the reservation, and also just the flooding, which will ultimately improve our situation here, and would like to include that in next year's budget. So this is just an alert. We will talk about it more in the budget, but we do want to move forward with it.
And the MOU?
Would go through Milburn.
Memorandum of Understanding that with GEP? Yeah, we're willing to sign that.
I don't know. I have to take a look at that. I didn't look at that. I focused on the money. So we'll take a look at the other thing. Yeah. So does anybody have any objection to that moving forward? Okay. Anything else? We get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you on October 21st back here in our house.